Roll call, please.
President Slater Carr. Commissioner Domrat,
Present.
Commissioner Mathush,
Present.
Commissioner Zemke,
Present.
Commissioner Crankralli. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic.
Roll call, please. We just did that.
Did that?
I missed the A. Public questions and comments, and I'm going to start. I had the honor of being elected to the president of this commission for this year, for 2025. I am very proud of what the commission has done in the last 4 years. I've only been here for 2 of them, but the commission has worked very hard on our financial stability and looking forward to planning for the distant future needs. Let the record reflect. Director Crankralli is present. And in any event, there's going to be a state of the district item coming up, and so I don't want to let the cat out of the bag about what we've done and what we will be doing, because it's an agenda item. But let me just say, I am glad the public is involved. I think there are the essential elements for any district to succeed is transparency and having the public pay attention to our transparency. A good board who cares more about the district and our long-term progress in meeting the needs of the community, and our client base serving, because we are an enterprise district and we need to pay attention to the entirety. This is a countywide enterprise district. We need to pay attention to the needs of the public for the future, as well as the near term. So thank you very much. Do we have any online comments, Felony? Okay, I don't see any speaker slips here. Would anybody like to speak and then fill out a speaker slip and hand it to me? It's better to have a speaker slip. We need them because it helps us spell names correctly in the minutes. And we want to give our public correct recognition and not misspell your name. So thank you very much. I don't see any public comment hands or questions. Let's go on to.
There's a hand.
Oh, do I see a hand? I'm having trouble.
Speaker slips.
They're in the back. And let's move on to commissioner comments. Any member of the commission may make public comments. Tom?
Pursuant to our government code and harbor practices, a number of us were in Washington, D.C., about 40, 50 people from the CMANC group visited a large number of California elected people. Main purpose there was to try and garner extra funds for our harbor projects such as the dredging. We'll see how that comes out in the new administration, but your harbor district was working hard for a week in Washington, D.C.
I was there with Tom as well in Washington, DC, and I have to say, it's actually a trip that I've been taking at least for the last few years. and it's yielded, I think, some good, great relationship building. Jim was there and he's done a really great job in representing the district to the Army Corps of Engineers, who's an essential partner with the Harbor District. I would also say that the environment there is a little different right now under the new administration. But I am hopeful that the California legislators will continue to represent, the harbors and the ports of California, just for the three basic things in my mind: national security, economics, and infrastructure. That was the message, at least, that we tried to impart on our group here. And I'm hopeful that, they'll continue to be good partners with us. But it was definitely a worthwhile trip. We had a meeting with our new Congress member, Sam Licardo, who is very supportive of the Harbor District. And, we're thankful that he understands the district and supports it, and really, he loved it here. Thank you.
And I will comment that Sam Licardo was here opening an office last night at in the shopping mall over here and he's going to be sharing an office with Supervisor Ray Mueller. He's going to have staff there on Tuesday and Thursday. And I'm pleased to have a congressman who will actually have staff here to report on what is going on the coast. I think direct representation is very important. The other is that when we were in Washington, we were talking about the most important need of just about any harbor, and that's keeping it dredged. And it turns out that many ports and harbors in California, the federal government pays for the dredging when it needs to be done. And so I'm hoping we can, I'm hoping that we can get the federal government financing, keeping our harbor dredged, because among other things, not only are we a working harbor, but we're a harbor of safe refuge. And we need to be able to accommodate people on the ocean who get into trouble. So, any more comments?
Nope.
Seeing none, then let's move on to activity reports. General Manager. Nothing further? Operations?
Everything's going quite well at both harbors. The staff prepared very well at both Hood Point Harbor and Oyster Point for the bad storms, the atmospheric rivers that hit us, walking the docks prior to the storms, putting on extra lines on all the boats, and then during the storms, checking on all the boats continually, pumping out boats that had been neglected, which regretfully we do have several at both harbors. We're averaging or hovering right around 90% for occupancy at Pillar Point, and around 70% is being pretty steady there at Oyster Point. The general managers directed us, and Julie Van Hoff is assisting in some advertisement efforts to try to increase our occupancy at Oyster Point. And I'd also like to just say that the deputy director of the Division of Boating Waterways wrote Harbor Master Tibby at Pillar Point Harbor a letter of commendation due to the efforts of our training officer, Carrie Smith, who put together a marine law enforcement water safety course for the Division of Boating Waterways, or he led that effort. He didn't do it all by himself, but he's the one that everybody's attributed the implementation of this excellent new training, and he is one of the instructors now, and we may end up having actually more of our staff as instructors as well, which is very much appreciated by all the local law enforcement agencies that, that will take advantage of this. And then at, Oyster Point Marina, our, ass- our assistant harbor master, Jacob Walding, has worked diligently over the last 10 years, actually, but just again, worked hard with our teams at both Oyster Point and, Pillar Point to get the clean marina designation again, for both Oyster Point and Pillar Point Harbor, which, is a very difficult designation to obtain. They send out inspectors to inspect for all of our environmental methods to ensure that we are taking care of our oils, our harbors are up to the standards that they require. That's all I've got.
Good morning, President Slater Carter. Good morning, Commissioners. We continue to move forward in automating and organizing the district data and permanent records. Tyler technology automation of HR functions has been slow due to software glitches, but we continue to move forward on that project. We've also been chipping away at making our website more ADA accessible and coordinating additional Wi-Fi connectivity at the harbors. Lastly, we continue to update policies and stay up to date in new employment and financial reporting laws. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Second,
Second.
George, Virginia made the motion, George made the second. Have any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of? Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting this and tell me coaching. Public comment on the agenda, on the consent agenda? Seeing none. Okay, now we'll have a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
Want a roll call?
Do we need a roll call?
Yes. Right? No?
It's up to you, it's.
Let's do a roll call just for
Yeah.
clarity.
President Slater Carter,
Yes.
Mr. Domrat,
Yes.
Mr. Mathush,
Aye.
Mr. Zemke.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to section G. First item is, calendar year 2025 ad hoc and standing committee review and assignments. And we have, George and I, together on that, as part of the Ocean Science Center Committee, and I think they go hand in hand. Going down the list, unless I hear any objections, going down the listed committees. Finance is Mathush and Chang Farali. Did we keep that one? Good. Human Relations is Chang Farali and Zemke. That's good. Dredging and Sediment Management, Dormerant and Matthew. I think that's perfect because the next committee that is hand in hand with that is the Army Corps of Engineers, and George is on that committee. Would anybody else like to be? Anyone else like to be on that committee?
I'll volunteer to be on it.
That would
That's-
be wonderful, Bill.
Good.
Um, sea level rise is Chancarelli and Dormeront. So
I'm not even sure. if we
Need that?
I don't even know if we need that really.
well,
Because
let's
we've
see,
got all the other stuff around it. That's
the,
the leftover committee.
We pick it up as that becomes.
why don't we just pause that one?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what I think.
And, sea level is gonna rise. And all of these other things that are going on,
Yeah.
it's a fundamental that we have to acknowledge that in all our other committees and actions, so.
Right, but what I'm saying is that all the other committees are dealing with this
With
issue.
the same
issue.
That's what I just
Okay.
said.
Yeah, so why do we need this committee?
Exactly.
Can we vote to just remove it?
Since we're doing committee assignments, Chris, can we remove a committee?
Yeah, I would move that we just remove
Okay.
sea level rise because we have other committees that address that issue.
I think that's a good plan. The Pillar Point Retail Center
So we need
is,
to dispense with that motion, right?
well, I was going to include it in the motion for all the
Got it.
committees. The Pillar Point Harbor Retail Center is Tom and I. Memorial Recognition is Chancarelli and Dormeront.
I thought that was that.
Pause that one.
No, I thought that was ad hoc, right, that we're not doing anymore.
Not
I
sure
thought
that
we settled it.
Yeah.
Settled
Yeah.
it,
That was an ad hoc
Okay,
committee, so
so-
I would
It's no
remove.
longer needed.
Yeah, it's no longer.
so
needed.
I'll add that to the removal
Yeah.
part. Ocean Science Center is Slater, Carter, and Dormeront. And we're making such good progress on it. I'm really excited. We spoke about, George has been working with the Army Corps. And I was talking to them about that when we were in Washington. I think it's a great committee to bring the public to our beaches and harbor. Research and Rescue Maritime Assistance is Chancarelli and Matthews. Yes. Event Pillar Point Breakwater Environmental Project is Dormeront and Zemke. That's good. Logo Committee is Zemke.
I'm wondering if we really we need to continue that, or is there a driving desire to have that committee still move forward?
And hear what I'm saying.
Oh, I'm
Is there a
saying,
need for the committee
is there a
to move
needs for
forward?
the committee? I kind of sense this is kind of a low priority item.
I think it's something worth pursuing still. Put a lot of effort into it, basically for the sake of the public. Our logo for Pillar Point Harbor, as you see, is a sailboat. We don't have many sailboats here. This is not a harbor that's known for sailing. Yes, there's a few sailboats, but the logo committee was to recognize we have such a tremendous commercial fishing, we have recreational fishing, we have so many other things, and we posted a lot of designs, but we haven't come up with a final design yet. So along those lines, in as much as we're not a sailing destination, so I'd say that it's a good reason to look at a reason to change our logo.
Okay, I'm,
Should I replace you on that?
no, I can be on the
Okay.
committee. I'm just kind of raising the question whether it's still needed. So I'll defer to Tom.
Okay. Then we've got the event committee, which is Slater, Carter, and Dormeront.
I would love to be a part of that too.
Oyster, we can discuss that at a future meeting then. Oyster Point Marina is empty and, Chancarelli.
Well, I
Yes.
thought we were changing, this is for 2024.
I
right?
understand.
Okay, do you
I'm
want
s-
me to still be on that? It doesn't.
I think it's important because you have connections
Okay,
with
I'll stay
people
on
in
this then.
South City and,
That's fine, I'm happy. with
South
that.
City is an important part of our district. And the San Mateo County One Shoreline is Slater Carter with an alternate of Chancarelli. Good. And we haven't met much on that one because One Shoreline's mostly concerned about lower elevations across the bay and cities, so. But in any event, so we have the, committee members, we're going, pretty much the same as last year. And we're going to vote on this motion, which somebody should make, to cancel, to remove the Sea Level Rise Committee and the Memorial Recognition Committee.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry, public comment. I'm sorry, guys. It's not that I forget you, it's that I'm nervous about running this meeting.
Doing fine.
So, do I see, I don't have any slips and I don't see any hands, so let's have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Carter,
Aye.
Commissioner Domrat,
Aye.
Commissioner Mathush,
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke,
I,
Commissioner Chang Corrali.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And, moving on to item G2. Thank you. To item G2, fiscal year 2023-2024 audited financial statements and independent auditors report. Julie.
Obtain a clean audit, which is possible by. Have with us today Gerard Coleman, who is the audit services partner for NIGRO and NIGRO, and he's here to present the financials for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024. He is online. Not online.
Not online. Should we postpone this item?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. We can move on to the exciting one. Which is the Surfers Beach Pilot Project update and proposal. John.
This item is a motion for the board to consider approving the attached proposal for $430,868 from consultant Brad Damitz and subconsultants MTS, Postal Futures, and Wood Biological Consulting for the Surfers Beach Restoration Pilot Project. What's that?
I just got a message that he is in the meeting. We just didn't find him. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Interrupted you, but.
all right, let's,
Do we want to keep going with the Surfers Beach or?
let's just do the Surfers Beach one. I think it has, I want to tell you guys, the maps are amazing. Thank you, and it's really worth going through. This is, talking about this report because we want people to understand exactly what it is we are doing and why we are doing it. This is part of our education outreach for the public. So let's just finish, let's go with this one.
Okay, I'll continue reading the motion. We want the board to consider approval of the proposal for $430,868 dollars from consultant Brad Damitz and consultants MTS, Postal Futures, and Wood Biological Consulting for the Surfers Beach Restoration Pilot Project, environmental compliance, project management, biological survey and monitoring, and approve an increase in capital expenditure appropriations of that $430,868 to be funded by available capital, working capital and the grant funds. We've got consultant Brad Damitz has been working and leading the efforts on this project for better part of 10 years now. He's on and he'll be giving us a project update, explaining the need for these additional soft cost funding. Talk a little bit about our grant that we were able to get from the Ocean Protection Council for almost $3 million and answer any questions that the board may have. Brad?
Thank you, John. And hi, commissioners. Thank you.
I can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
No, we need more volume.
Let me put on.
Okay,
How's it
let's.
sound now?
No, it's on our end.
Maybe on our end, Brad.
Okay, let's just stand by for a second.
Yeah.
Sound check. Can you hear me?
Not much.
Right now, Brad.
Okay, sound check. 1, 2, 3. How's my sound? Better?
No,
Is it just going through your earbuds maybe?
I'll take them off. I mean, I have clear sound.
Might have to get them way away from your phone too. They're still gonna be connected wirelessly.
Now here I'm on,
no, that, it doesn't change.
okay. It must be on your side.
Hi, this is Michelle. I'm on the Zoom and I can hear him very clearly, just so you know.
Oh, it must be here then. Thank you, Michelle.
Why is it?
Could you hear Michelle?
Soundbar on.
Brad, if you can just speak up and, get a little closer to the microphone, I can hear you all right, but
Yeah.
go ahead and say something.
Okay, how's this? I'll be loud and clear.
Yeah, just talk as loud as you can.
Okay, sounds good. That's pretty loud. Thank you, commissioners, for having me here today. And I'm sorry I have to be here remotely. These past few meetings have occurred during school spring break, so I'm on a family road trip. But I will be back there in person in the future. So I've got a brief presentation that I'm going to share my screen on today.
Yeah, just hold on a minute, Brad. They're working on the volume.
Technical difficulties.
Okay, I'll work through the technical difficulties with sharing my screen.
Try it again.
Can you hear me?
It says speaker is disconnected.
Why don't I try rejoining?
The volume for the computer itself. down here.
But I don't want to turn my, then it'll just.
Oh, is
have
that, that's not
feedback.
connected? So how do you turn the volume up on the computer?
It's all-
Michelle, were you able to break in and talk?
Some of the others while they're fixing it.
Yeah, I can hear, Brad. Can you guys hear me?
I never touch it.
Yeah, you're coming in though, I think about the same volume as Brad is.
Okay.
I think the issue's on us. It's on our side, Brad.
I just rejoined. Am I any better on the sound?
I'm there.
Oh,
He's online as well, so I don't think that's gonna help.
The audit and this dredging are on, and so will be the overflow parking. I'm sure we're gonna have people calling in. And then we've got the professional services agreement. So these are all connected items. And then we've got closed session.
Stand by for a minute. Brad, we're trying to get a hold of our IT people.
Yeah, we had new carpeting put in some of you may notice,
Mine
and
G4 doesn't have any.
G4 has no Zoom issue?
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's better to have a slip for each topic you want to speak on. Even for a question, that way it gets attributed correctly. Since we don't have any public online to comment on this,
Michelle was online.
Michelle is online too, yeah, because I don't see her here.
She can hear us, I think. Don't you?
I'm not,
Michelle, can you hear us?
I can hear you very clearly.
Yeah.
but so the problem for Brad and anybody else is we might not be able to hear her real well.
Be careful up there.
We have 3 information only items. Should we just call those? Do you mind if we rearrange?
Yeah, no, I think you should.
agenda?
because This is,
Okay.
we shouldn't delay that.
We will move to the item 6 then, Ocean Science Center survey update. And
A quick update on the Ocean Science Center. Catherine and I met with the chancellor of the San Mateo County Community College District. They showed very much a lot of enthusiasm to be involved in this and work with us. They would love to have a place where they can, train a lot of their students and getting ready for whether they be, technical position or getting ready for their junior and senior year and doing a little bit of research or learning about that. So they're very enthusiastic and they're just waiting for us to bring them on board. So that was a very successful meeting. I've also been having some meetings, kind of informally with Stanford, some of the oceanography people there. They very much appreciate having a place closer to Stanford that they can come and do some work. I know they do have a marine science facility down in Monterey, but they're very excited about it. And then there may be an opportunity. San Francisco State is closing its research facility down. That was in the news a couple of weeks ago, their Tiburon facility. So there may be an opportunity that if we have something that some of our students can come here to learn. So kind of laying out, well, what's this all mean? And we have basically 3 phases. The first phase is what I call a reconnaissance phase. This is kind of measure the temperature, find out from the community, find out from universities, state, federal agencies, is there really an interest to do this here? So that's kind of the phase we're in now. We're getting towards the end of that. We did a survey and Rochelle will present the results of that survey in a minute. Oh, that sounds about. So we're getting to the point where we're kind of ending that phase of reconnaissance, finding out that there's a lot of interest to do this. So the next phase is what I call kind of the feasibility phase, where we would probably lay out and have a team of advisors and others from the community, from the researchers, from the state, the feds, help put together maybe 3 to 5 alternatives of what we would like this to look like. And then based on that, we would then start looking at the funding it would take for those and kind of figure out, well, what makes sense and what direction we would want to go. And then get a finalization in the implementation of whatever that alternative would be the final phase. So we're right there at the end of that first phase. I think we have more than enough information to say, yeah, let's continue going with this and get to the next phase. So Rochelle, you want to present the survey results? Is that a new seal species?
Well, thank you. And just a big thank you to the public who took the time to take our survey. It was a basic survey, but
the commissioners all have really wonderful ideas, but it's important for us to reach back out and make sure that our ad hoc committees and the directions we're taking and will also meet the needs of the public and what that interest is. And so this initial survey was just open for the general public. We had it open for a couple months all through December and January, and we ended up with 264 responses, which is great. Really just kind of help guide us through our next steps. The survey isn't very long, but I'm going to go through each of our questions and give you a little bit of a summary. So there is interest in Ocean Science Center. And so the question was, how interested are you in the idea of an Ocean Science and Research Center at Pillar Point Harbor? And out of all those respondents, 201 were very interested. Almost everybody had some interest. What are the ages of those in your household? And I think that this visual will just tells us that we have a lot of families that completed this survey. I don't think a lot of minors answered this survey and to enter how old they were, but it really captures the age of those in the households that completed this survey. What's your primary reason for visiting Pillar Point Harbor? And it's really recreation, fishing, looking at plants and animals, and eating out. What types of programs would you like to see? I need to just. There's a couple things on my screen so I can see. People want it to be the center of everything with a slight preference for family programming, entertainment, and things that you can poke. I think the folks that completed this survey, they're really interested in being able to engage with the environment and the creatures and the things that we have around us at the ocean and the harbor. Topics are you most interested in learning about? People are interested in learning about the local habitat and its protection, local marine ecosystems. And so, just to clarify too, that the survey was open to the public, and some of our partners in the education and science realms may have completed the survey, but this was really focused on the general public and those who might be interested in coming to our harbor and an Ocean Science Center. Not targeted towards that science community. What facilities would you want to find most valuable at an Ocean Science Center? And the number one was aquariums or marine exhibits. And number two was outdoor educational space. Often do you visit Pillar Point Harbor? And over half of it, or a little under half, visit the harbor weekly. They would like us to have an Ocean Science Center that is open all the time, which I appreciate. During the week and on weekends. What challenges or concerns do you have about establishing an Ocean Science Center and Research Center at Pillar Point Harbor? And the largest concern is funding. And I think that that's probably one of the concerns of our ad hoc committee as well. And that we are looking at ways to address that. And one of those is looking at a 501c3 and how could fundraising help support those activities. So again, a big thank you to the public who took the time to finish that survey and provide us with some guidance on the project, and to our commissioners who sit on this committee and your guidance for reaching out to the public. So thank you. You bet.
Actually, I think that is a good precursor for the one on for the item on parking. Public comment?
Sure. Oh, sorry, I was curious when the survey was distributed and where
It was distributed across all of our social media outlets. So Facebook, Instagram, we posted once a week during the time that the survey was open. And it was on our website. It went out to all of our flip holders. And it was also, Commissioner Domerat had a booth at the Lighted Boat Festival and promoted the survey there with a QR code that people could scan with their phone when it was mobile accessible to take them. And was it distributed, how long of a period and when did it was going to be distributed? Well, for 2 months. And it started at the end of November and ran through the end of January. You're welcome.
I've been asking people I run into, just a moment, man, and asking them these same general questions in various different places, like at the grocery store. And not for necessarily for residents. And I've gotten pretty much the same comments. And I have for years been surprised at the long distances people will drive to come to this harbor. It is truly a valuable recreational space for people across the northern part of the state. Dan Haggerty. And Dan, if you would fill out a slip on this too.
Sue, just since this is being recorded, it would probably be best if you come up to
Oh,
the microphone.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
It's later.
I don't remember seeing like any postings. I think that, the vast, community, probably unaware of it. I think just a suggestion that in the future, if there's more, notice, maybe, flyers at some poster at the library, post office, just kind of really, because not everybody's on Facebook. I'm not on Facebook. So I think a broader outreach would be a good idea.
Thank you. And this item was for information only, and let's move back.
One other comment that I'd like to make is, well, what's the next step? Okay, so I think we're showing through our reconnaissance phase or this measuring the temperature phase that there is a reason to go to that next step. Part of that, whether you want to call it the end of the reconnaissance or the beginning of this feasibility, is to the subcommittee will put together maybe a little proposal for the general manager and for the rest of the commissioners to look at, is to get a little bit of funding to do a couple of facilitated workshops. And I'd like to target those, one for the general community, another one for the state agencies, federal agencies, the universities, those kind of things. Because one will be more from the research side. Everything is education, but one's more the research side, and then the general community will get the high schools involved, we'll get all the local people involved, and do some facilitated. To that will then help get that next phase ready, is what this thing should look like, and maybe 2 or 3 alternatives. So
And
there's a question.
oh, could you come up here?
That would be giving the community input on this, kind of like a survey from the community.
We would invite, like, the big workshop. I'd like to do it. This is my own personal idea. We'll have to find out from everybody else. For the community, maybe do it on a Saturday to get the most participation you can, to see what the people would like this to look like. And then help that start generating what these 3 to 5 alternative type of organizational things would look like.
Thank you.
Catherine, before we leave this topic, I'd just like to say thanks to George for all of his energy that he's poured into this, and
You're
really as kind of the force behind making this.
I couldn't do it without Catherine.
And Jim, who is it that, there's a local environmental group we're working with to put their murals up on our existing building.
Yeah.
I've forgotten their name.
Migrating bureaus.
Yeah.
The migrating.
I can't remember the-
Okay. Pardon?
Yeah.
Yes. So we've been working with them for quite a while and we're excited about improving the education in a passive sort of format. Let's, is our, can we do the audit, move into the audit now?
Yeah, hopefully the sound has been corrected, but we'll find out.
Okay, Jared should be able to speak.
Barb?
There we go.
Hello there. Can you hear me okay?
Can't hear you at all.
We can't hear you at all.
Can't hear it all, huh?
Oh,
Put it back on TV speakers.
Hey Jared, this is Boomer. I can hear you.
You can hear me okay? All right.
Yeah.
Still must be
I
something.
don't know why we're having
And,
such.
It has to be on the speaker above.
Okay, well,
What can we do?
Added headphones for.
It's information, or should we just?
so let's,
It's on. The speaker above. Remember, it heard, made it, you know.
so, could you do the mid?
I just
budget?
have them say something.
Yes. I
Testing.
know, I can hear you.
Can't hear.
Can't hear.
Well, thank you, President Slater Carter and Commissioners. I'm gonna share my screen for this one as well.
Say something?
Jared, hello?
Say something?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, well, we're going to move on with your item then,
I had it in
the,
the-
fiscal audited
It did-
financial statements and independent report for 23-24. And we can hear
Yay.
you.
All right. Let me share my screen here real quick.
You can turn it down.
Yeah.
Yes, if Tom can hear it, it's too loud. Oh, don't turn it down, John. Yeah, Tom can't hear.
Okay, can everybody see the PDF I'm sharing here?
Turn it down a little now.
Yeah.
John, it's not that remote at the TV. If you have the TV remote,
It's on the right side, there's a bar that's going down.
Okay, let's try it again.
How is the volume now?
We can all hear it.
Okay, well then I will move forward here. Again, my name is Jared Solmonson. I am an audit services partner with Nigro and Nigro, and I work closely with Boomer and his staff to oversee and complete the audit for fiscal year 2024. I'm going to do a brief presentation here. We're going to start with the scope of work. We were engaged to perform audit test work of the entity's annual financial statements and report, as well as to report on the entity's internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance in accordance with government auditing standards, Our responsibility in accordance with these standards is to form and express an opinion about whether the annual financial statement results that have been prepared by management are presented fairly in all material respects in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. Our responsibility was to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance, reasonable, not absolute, we do not look at everything, about whether the annual financial statements are free of material misstatements. We are also to consider the entity's internal controls and segregations of duties over accounting procedures and financial reporting as we perform our test work. Such considerations were solely for the purpose of determining our audit procedures and not to provide any assurance concerning such internal controls. So we evaluate the internal controls, we just don't issue an opinion on the internal controls. Moving down here to the audit results, we issued an unmodified opinion on the annual financial statements. That is a clean opinion. We do not want any modifications to the language in the opinion letter. The annual financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects, in our opinion. The adopted significant accounting policies have been consistently applied. Estimates are considered reasonable for depreciation, pension, OPEB, as well as lease revenue. Excuse me here. As part of our opinion as well, we are required by AUC 265 to communicate internal control related matters identified in the audit. No material issues arose to be reported to the governing body. Any minor issues were just discussed with staff. Any clarification or anything like that was provided timely. Okay, moving down here, we're going to do a quick overview of how the numbers came to rest on the financial statements. Here we have operating revenues, 24 versus 23. Birth rental revenue was up, or was down actually about 11,000, so very stable there. We had a slight decrease of 30,000 approximately in launching fees. Rent and concessions were down about 194,000. Events and permits were up to 28,000 from 15,000, so about an increase of 13,000 there. And then other operating revenue was pretty stable, about a $5,000 difference there. So overall, operating revenues decreased by about 230,000. Moving down to non-operating revenues, we saw a 7.1% increase in property tax revenue, which brought it to about $11 million, a $730,000 increase. Investment earnings, there's the big one. 1.16 million from a $204,000 loss last year on the fair value of the investments. So that's great to see. Grants and reimbursements, pretty stable, down about 95,000. Those are vary year to year, just depending on their nature. Other non-operating revenues, we saw an increase of about 17,000. And then moving down to capital contributions, those are federal capital grants as well as state capital grants. Again, they vary year to year. So we seen a $45,000 decrease in federal capital grants and a $53,000 increase in state capital grants. So overall, pretty stable there. That brings us to total revenues of 16.9 million, up from 15.1 million in the prior year. So revenues increasing, always good to see. Moving down here to operating expenses, pretty stable overall. 11.2 versus 10.9 in the prior year. Some changes, slight decrease in salaries and benefits. Most of that is down to the annual revaluation of the district's net pension and OPEB liabilities. There's always an expense effect depending on the change in those liabilities. Anything else major? Facilities and maintenance increased about 919,000. Professional and legal services increased as well, about 100,000. Material and services down this year, about $586,000. That just kind of depends on the repairs and maintenance, the needs of the district in any given year. We saw an increase of about 80,000 in vessel destruction expenses, and insurance premiums were up about $31,000, which is expected. You see that statewide right now. So total operating expenses, as I mentioned, 11.2. Depreciation expense, 1.5 million, 1.581, up about 267,000 from the prior year. These are non-cash expenses, so as more capital assets come online and begin depreciation, you'll see that number increase. So that brings us here to a change in revenue expenses of 4.1 million. You can think of that as your bottom line. That is the, for lack of a better word, net income. That's the change in net position of the district. So moving down here to some other items, we're going to discuss capital outlay. So capital asset additions, the district had 11.1 million during the year. So that's cash spent on capital assets, construction, vehicles, anything like that. Taken against depreciation expense, which is a non-cash expense, that leaves us with a change in capital expense of 9.5 million. So down here are your cash and investments. Last year, we ended the year with 22.8 million in cash, and this year, 6/30/24, we finished with 17.6 million in cash. So that's a decrease of about 5.1 million in cash. So just to take a quick look here, how did we get from a positive 4.1 million change in net position to a negative 5.1 change in cash? If you go down to the quick summary here, we see the change in revenues expenses of 4.1 million, taken with the change in capital expense, which is a use of cash of 9.5 million. And then just some other accruals here, change in allowance for doubtful accounts, as well as change in the net pension liability. That brings us to a change in cash of about 5 million. It's about 120,000 off of the change in cash up there. That's just some other minor accruals, changes in accruals caught up in that number there. And then finally down here at the bottom, investment earnings on the portfolio, 5.73%, which is excellent. That's actually the best I've seen this year. For many years, cash management hasn't really been a concern for districts because all you could get was 1%. But with the last couple of years, we've seen the interest rate market rising. So we kind of benchmark our clients this year at about 4%. So you came in well above that at 5.73%. So well done to the fiscal managers there at the district for taking care of cash management. That concludes my presentation. If you have any specific questions on the presentation or the financial statements, I'm happy to answer those.
I have a question. Thank you for this report. So I'm assuming this 5.73% is as of 12/31/2024, right?
No, that is as of 6/30/2024. We kind of do an average.
Do you have a calendar year in? Because there was a lot of change between June of 2024 and December of 2024 and also, I mean, like, in terms of the election, but I think also the Fed lowered rates a couple times in that last half of the year.
That's correct, but this percentage here is just for the fiscal year 24, so it would be July 23 through June of 24. So next year's audits, we will probably see some decreases in that percentage, just by the nature of the investment market with decreasing interest rates.
Yeah, so that's why I would want to see the calendar year. I know that we're on a fiscal year, I know that, but I just think that because of the changes in the capital markets environment, I just want to see what that is, the actual, and where that could be headed. I just am a little worried now about interest rates not being at the same level, obviously, right? I mean, I'm seeing it like at the best the top end would be like about 4.65-ish% as of the end of the calendar year. So I'm just wondering what are y'all expecting or estimating in terms of this uncertain and unpredictable political environment that could actually have ramifications for the capital markets?
Well, everything you mentioned there is correct. Hopefully, you're invested in a lot of the state pools, the county pool and LAIF and whatnot. So hopefully they should be laddering their portfolios. So even though interest rates are declining, if they're buying 5-year, 10-year paper at a higher interest rate, they can kind of maintain those returns.
Yeah, I get
with
that.
the government code, you can't really invest in equities. So it mostly is the bond market. So hopefully it should continue for several years here if they're able to ladder their portfolios correctly. So even though we do expect a decrease, we feel like in the 4% should be pretty stable over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it seems to be holding right now, but I just don't know how it's going to be closer to the end of the fiscal year. I mean, do you have projections that maybe you can share with the finance committee for the next meeting or the meeting after that? I'm just concerned about that. I mean, I'm preparing for this other district that I sit on the board of. I mean, I get the principal preservation, I get all of that, right? But like the Harbor District, I mean, we're actually using some of this money, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, it's not going to be like the traditional investment, right? Because it's just to maximize our return while actually using the money. So it's not going to be like a normal investment portfolio, right? Where it's a long-term investment.
Correct. With the government code, after the bankruptcy of the county of Orange several years ago, they really tightened up the governmental code as far as what investments there can be. So it's pretty much all fixed income.
I know,
Uh,
I know. It's back in 1994. Is that the time you're talking about?
yeah, yes, it was quite a while now.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, to your point, it's not like a traditional capital equity investment. It's all going to be bond funds. So it's basically to preserve your principal while earning the best interest rate you can, because as the commissioners, there's a fiduciary responsibility to look after the public funds.
Yeah, no, I know. I just want to know what your projections are going out for at least if you can, for the end of the end of the fiscal year. It's hard. I get it that it's.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
that would be
hard.
more to speak with an investment manager. As your auditor, we kind of present more historical
Okay,
items
That's-
here, and we do discuss with the staff if they have questions about investments, and we try to point them in the right direction, but it's not necessarily appropriate for us to give investment advice or our thoughts on the investment market.
yeah, so, Julie, can we get that? Maybe we need to have a meeting with our investment advisor. I would like that, just so that we understand what the next half of the fiscal year is gonna look like. But I get that. I know that it's the honor. So thank you for that work here.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you for the work here. I just want us to be very cognizant of this unpredictable environment and the interest rate situation that seems to be fluctuating in a short amount of time, a lot, right? So if we can have that meeting for the finance committee with the investment advisor. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any comment from you? Right?
Yeah. Perfectly possible with this document available to the public.
Yeah.
Can you come up to the microphone?
Just asking if this document is available to the public.
It's on our online agenda.
Okay, so
This-
it's easy to access.
Yes.
In the
Okay.
agenda.
Always.
Okay, let's have a roll call vote. please.
I'll make a motion. I'll move to approve the final draft fiscal year 2023-24 San Mateo County Harbor District audited financial statements and independent auditors report by Nigro and Nigro.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
President Slater Carter, Commissioner Domrot,
Yes. Aye.
Commissioner Zemke.
Aye.
Raleigh. Aye.
Motion carries. Moving on to item G3, Surfers Beach Pilot Project Update and Proposal from Moran.
Okay, we've got consultant Damitz is going to continue where we left off, giving us a project update and discussing the proposal for continued soft costs on the project and answer any questions you might have. But I think we can hear you now, and if you cannot share your screen, let us know and Melanie can flip through. You just tell her when to change slides.
Great, sounds good. How's my sound?
Good.
Good, excellent. Thank you. Hello, commissioners, staff. I'm going to share my screen right now. I've got yeah, John, it's not letting me share my screen. So why don't you, can you pull up the PDF instead?
Yeah, Melanie, you send it to Melanie so she can pull it up and put it on the screen.
And then I'll just say next slide.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so couple things for this brief presentation today. I'm going to give a really quick overview of the project itself and why it's needed, just so everybody's on the same page on that, kind of reinforcing the main purposes. Give an update on our planning status, where we're at as far as the planning for construction this summer, what tasks are coming up, and then kind of the timeline on how construction itself real basically is going to play out, the phasing of that. And then after that, I can give some brief overviews of the different proposals that you're being considered today to kind of provide some context to that. And we will have a discussion after that. I'm sure there'll be some questions. Good, okay, next slide. Okay, so real quickly here, this is an aerial view of the harbor, just showing the main areas that we're discussing today. On the left-hand side is the eelgrass mitigation area in the west basin of the harbor. And then inside the harbor, inside the east breakwater is our dredging areas. And then outside of the harbor, all the way on the right, shows Surfers Beach, where we're going to restore that beach and place sand pumped over from the harbor. Next slide. In the simplest of terms, the project is necessary to address two major issues that are caused by the existence of the breakwater structures of the harbor itself. One of those is severe erosion. The way that the outer breakwaters kind of interact with the sediment transport and the wave patterns causes severe erosion to occur outside of the harbor. And then inside of the harbor, we have shoaling. The sand that used to make its way down the coastline is getting caught inside the harbor and causing issues with navigation and other concerns. Next slide. This just kind of illustrates, here's the erosion concerns. This shows during a high tide and winter storm, how the waves are just crashing up right against that Caltrans revetment. And then the next slide is showing the shoaling of the harbor. That's during a low tide. I think that was probably 2 years ago. You can see the extent of the sand that's collecting inside the harbor. Next one, please. So again, simplest of terms, what the project entails is taking 100,000 cubic yards of that sand that's stuck inside the harbor and pumping it over in a slurry mixture of water and sand, placing it on Surfers Beach in a beach profile that's been designed by our engineers at ESA. Because there is eelgrass in some of the dredging areas, the agencies require a large-scale eelgrass mitigation project, and that's been a big kind of challenge in planning, but it's something that we're prepared to take on. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then this is a pilot project. You don't have to go back. A pilot project that the Harbor District agreed to take on because that's an important project, and the community has been very supportive of it. And if this pilot project, as we study and monitor it, turns out to be a success and something that could be repeated in the future, then a larger version could be pursued in the future. For example, Army Corps could, pump more sand and place it on the beach, and maybe even on an ongoing basis. But that's kind of what we're studying here to see if that's an effective approach and something that could be worth pursuing on a larger basis. Next slide, please. Other way. Okay, these are just a screenshot from the permitting level design plans. And the reason I have these are just to show kind of where the green areas are where we have eelgrass. And you can see kind of where the placement area is and where the dredging area is. And if you go to the next slide, it shows a close-up of one of these dredging areas. Now this is, there's two separate areas in the East Basin that are going to be dredged of sand and placed at Surfers Beach. The first one is off of the boat launch ramp, and we have three areas there, 1A, 1B, and 1C. The offshore sediments from the boat launch ramp are slightly more silty and less sandy than the other material, so those aren't suitable for placement on Surfers Beach. But what we're going to do with that material is bring it over to the West Basin and build up a mitigation platform, kind of bring the bathymetry up to the level where it'll support eelgrass beds, and then take the eelgrass salvage from the eelgrass from the dredging areas, transplant it over there. And I'll talk more about that in a couple of slides. Next. And this just shows the extent of the sand placement area at Surfers Beach. And you can kind of see it's about 1,300 feet of coastline, I believe. That'll be a big berm that kind of slopes down to the beach. Next slide. And we'll learn more about the engineering plans and the construction process at a future meeting as well. The more of the focus of today's presentation is on the monitoring needs and the scope of work, or the scopes of work that were in the proposals that you're considering today. So what to expect over the next couple of months, Surface Beach implementation timeline. That first bullet is today approving proposals for project management, environmental compliance for the next 5.5 years, moving from pre-project planning through construction phase, and then that 5-year monitoring and adaptive management phase after that. And in addition, biological surveys and surfing conditions monitoring, which we'll talk about in a second. But the project's going to go out to bid in early March. We have the bid documents under preparation. ESA is now putting the final touches on the technical specifications, working with their construction expert, making sure that all of the details have been well thought out and ready to release for bid. Surfing conditions monitoring is something I'm going to talk about in a couple of slides as well, but that is an ongoing effort that we've been working on since early November, I believe, with Bob Battaglia. General continuing the planning and logistics. There's a lot of pre-construction and permitting stuff that has to happen. We have all the permits in hand, but there are prior to issuance conditions on those permits. So we have to send in certain plans, results of surveys, all that kind of stuff. And we're just working on getting that all squared away in advance of construction. There's a biological monitoring plan that I'll talk about in a minute that's being developed. And that's something required by Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary. And we need to get that approved by them. That is moving along very well. And then the monitoring and adaptive management plan is something where we've submitted drafts already. We just need to get final approval from that from the agencies. Next, please. So April, things are going to really start kicking in. We have this whole eelgrass mitigation plan that's been approved by agencies. It took several years to get that approved. And we have, that was an attachment to the staff report. If you'd like to see the details, that includes all the details there. The agencies do not allow pre-construction eelgrass surveys until after April 1st. It has to be within the growing season, between April 1 and October 30th. And it has to be within 60 days of construction start. So that means the earliest we can do it is the beginning of April, and we'd like to do it as soon as we can in early to mid-April. And that is part of the proposal today, which I'll talk about. There's also requirements for black abalone surveys, which is a highly protected abalone species that's endangered, and National Marine Fisheries Service has issued a biological opinion on that. We have a plan in place to deal with that. That's going to happen at the same time as the eelgrass survey. And it involves kind of getting out there at a low tide and observing all the rock habitat within the Surface Beach placement area. We've got special status plant surveys. It has to happen during bloom seasons of the special status plants. So I think that begins in April and continues through June. Again, surfing conditions monitoring is an ongoing thing. We're going to have a public meeting. Public meeting with some of the project stakeholders. I've spoken with City of Half Moon Bay. They're interested in being involved in that, but just to kind of provide information to the public about what to expect, what the project, a little history about the project, but also how the construction phase is going to play out, what to expect as far as any issues with beach access and that kind of thing. And then by the end of April, we're going to get the construction plans and some of those permitting, prior to issuance conditions submitted and approved, and a lot of coordination with the contractor and project partners on the staging areas, just all the logistics that go into a big construction project like this. There's going to be a lot of coordination. April board meeting is when the construction contract will come up for approval by the board. And at that time, there are also a couple other proposals, and I'll talk about those after. So next slide, please. So coming around the May timeframe is when we're gonna start getting geared up for actual contractor mobilization and start of construction. There are some biological surveys that need to occur within 7 days of construction start. Snowy plover surveys is one of those, nesting bird surveys, special status plant surveys. We need to notify all the agencies that construction is going to begin, and that includes, notification to U.S. Coast Guard for navigation purposes, that kind of thing. And again, surfing conditions monitoring continues. Next slide. So the construction timeline itself, the first phase, obviously contractor mobilization, and that's the process of getting all of the equipment on there, laying out the dredging pipelines, the staging areas, all that kind of stuff first before they can begin construction. And then once everything is geared up and ready to begin, the first dredging will begin near the boat launch ramps in that area where you saw the image in one of the earlier slides. The siltier material offshore will be dredged up and placed over in the West Basin eelgrass mitigation site. It'll take recommended that it would take about a minimum of 2 weeks to let that settle, that material settle. That'll be something that the contractor and the eelgrass mitigation contractor will coordinate on when the time is right. They will go and salvage that eelgrass, bundle it up for the specifications in the eelgrass mitigation plan, and then transplant it into the newly settled material over in the West Basin. That could take as long as 3 weeks maybe to get that done. Once that is done, then they can begin dredging and pumping sand over to Surfers Beach. And once the pumping will begin kind of on the northern end and then move southward all the way until it's up against the east breakwater of the harbor. Once the sand has been placed, they'll do some final grading to make it consistent with the engineering and design plans from ESA. They've been designed to avoid issues such as heavy scarping or issues with public access. But in the beginning, there will be some, as the waves kind of work the sand, the profile will change and adjust over the first couple of months. And then the final phase is the contractor closeout and demobilization. And that's when, the harbor district, if the work has been done to the satisfaction and met all the requirements, the harbor district approves the contractor, they clean up the site and get their equipment out of there. Next slide, please. So today, there's 4 proposals under your consideration. Real quickly, one of them is for my services over the next 5.5 years, which are general kind of project management and logistics, coordinating with John and Jim at the Harbor District and the construction contractor and all of the engineering and other subcontractors, biological monitors on the project through that 5-year monitoring and adaptive management phase. Marine Taxonomic Services is a company that we've been working with on this project for about 5 or more years, and they came up with the eelgrass mitigation plan. Their work would be involving eelgrass surveys through the 5-year requirements detailed in the eelgrass mitigation plan, as well as black abalone surveys. Wood Biological Consulting, Chris Rogers is local to there. He used to lead the biological monitoring program at ESA, but now he's independent. He did the bird monitoring for the West Trail project and does really good work. Coastal Futures LLC, aka Bob Battaglio, who used to work for ESA but has been retired and now has his own independent company. And he's going to propose to oversee the surfing conditions monitoring program. And we'll talk about these soon. So next slide, please. My work, there are a lot of details in the proposal, and I would encourage you to look through all those specific, bullets in the scope of work. It's much too much detail to kind of go through right now, but generally it includes all of these logistics and planning, going from pre-construction over the next couple of months through the construction phase and overseeing environmental compliance with the many permitting requirements that are in the attachment and the end of the proposal as well, through 5-year maintenance and maintenance and monitoring phase for the project. Total proposed cost, 127,000 not to exceed, and up to 72,000 of that has been approved to be covered through the OPC SB1 Track 2 grant that the district has. Next slide. Marine Taxonomic Services, the contact is Robert Mooney. He's got a whole team of biologists that he works with. The main tasks in their proposal are supporting the district with planning and engineering, making sure that the final technical specifications have all the right language in it, consistent with the eelgrass mitigation plan. They also need to apply for the scientific collection permit through CDFW, California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And the person who gets that collection permit has to be the same biologist who completes the mitigation work. A little bit more on that later. Pre-construction eelgrass and black abalone surveys are part of their scope of work. The eelgrass survey is a harbor-wide. All the areas where there has been eelgrass in the past will be surveyed. They do diving to confirm whether or not eelgrass is in certain locations. There's post-construction eelgrass monitoring, and that's 8 total surveys there. That's the one right after construction, and then 7 other surveys as well throughout that 5-year term. And the details are in the eelgrass mitigation plan. This also has an abalone contingency. So we're not expecting to have black abalone found, but if there is a plan to, instead of having to stop construction, we have a contingency in place where those abalone would be relocated, and then there's monitoring requirements on top of that. So this proposal includes $30,000 of contingency in case that happens, and we're not planning on it happening, but we want to be ready in case it does, to be able to, take quick action so it doesn't delay any of the construction. And next one, please. Wood Biological Consulting. This is Chris Rogers, is the biologist who would conduct this work. If you look in the permitting requirements, in the matrix at the end, there's a lot of language with all the specific requirements, but this involves nesting bird surveys, I believe nesting raptor surveys, snowy plovers, which are endangered bird, and special status plant surveys as well. And then the permits require a worker environmental training, which is coming up with some handouts that have information about the species of concerns and what to do, what the best management practices are to avoid impacts. So every worker from the contractor side of things has to go through this training, and that's something that Chris Rogers would lead and coordinate. Total proposed cost here is $41,000, and that includes $17,000 in contingency costs in case a snowy plover active nest is found, and that's something we're definitely not planning on, but in case it does happen, we want to be ready and prepared to be able to take action necessary and do the monitoring necessary, so that the project. Next one, please. And then the final subcontractor on this proposal is Coastal Futures LLC. That's Bob Battaglio, local engineer who's well known by everybody. He's also long-term surfer, very active in the surfing community. So the surfing conditions monitoring requirements are something that are in the Coastal Commission Coastal Development Permit. And they're requiring us to look at the condition of the surfing waves before construction, during construction, and following construction for a year. And that includes just taking notes on observations where the waves are coming from. Bob came up with a whole protocol, and I'll show you some kind of examples of that in the upcoming slides. But this is something that he would oversee by taking observations throughout the process, writing reports, coordinating and training of the monitoring team volunteers. So Bob and I have met with Ed Lorenas and leadership at San Mateo Surfrider Foundation, San Mateo County Surfrider Foundation, who are going to assist with this project using volunteers trained by Bob. We have a subscription to a application that can be used on iPhone or iPad that really makes it much more objective and scientific to be able to collect these data, pairing with pictures, current conditions. And then lastly, Bob will compile all this data and prepare the reports that will get submitted to the Coastal Commission at the end. The total proposed cost for this is $47,175. Next slide. Here is, and by the way, Bob has been working on this. He's been working since November, and he's been invoicing since, I believe, like December or January. And I've been reimbursing him under my previous contract for Surfers Beach management. This is to continue that work over the next year and a half. And you can see those are just some photos of the different types of conditions. The first one is in November. Second one is in December. And this is a screenshot showing kind of a markup of the different information that's being collected. So the wave direction, where it's coming from, the wave sizes. There's a lot of other detail, and we can, learn more about that at a future meeting. One more slide, please. This one was actually a video, and I had it in the PowerPoint. We can't watch it now, but it shows kind of one of the unique aspects of this surfing spot here up against, they call it the wall, where the waves kind of reflect off of the jetty. And it's a really interesting kind of novelty wave for surfers when the conditions are right. So use your imaginations on that one, because we don't have the video. But next one, please. So additional project costs in addition to what is being considered today for the proposal. There are a few other costs. Obviously, the project construction for the harbor dredging, Surfers Beach restoration, and the eelgrass mitigation components. That's something that will come for your review at the April board meeting. We have $2,720,000 that can be applied towards construction under the OPC SB1 grant that's been approved. The second thing that still needs to happen, get approved, is a contract for engineering support during the construction phase, and then third-party construction management. So that's having somebody to oversee for the district, make sure that all the construction contractor is meeting the requirements and completing the plans and the technical specifications appropriately. And in addition to that, that would include implementation of a 5-year physical monitoring plan. And that includes taking beach profile measurements over time. That's another requirement of permit conditions from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, the Sanctuary, Coastal Commission, and Army Corps of Engineers. Finally, there's one more thing that's not included that's related to biological monitoring. The Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary's permit does require a biological monitoring plan that's in the works. This is something that MTS is working on. We have funding from a separate grant outside of the Harbor District. It's a grant that was received by Greater Fairlawn Association, where I coordinated with them. We were able to get some funding to help pay for biological monitoring. And we think that much of these costs would be covered under that, as the costs for development of the plan, which is just about finalized, the draft plan, have been covered. So, you know, there could be some additional costs associated with that the Harbor District would pay, but we don't know about that. There will be more information on that in the April board meeting. And those are the other additional anticipated costs that come to mind. So, next slide. We have a whole lot of background information available on the Harbor District's website, Surfers Beach website, and encourage you to go there for more background information. I will put up within the next probably 2 weeks a very detailed timeline that you know, kind of those slides where it says, okay, May, April, during the different months, that have all of the bullet points under them. The one today and the slide was abbreviated version, but the long one will be on there soon. And with that, that's my presentation for today. And I'll hand it back over to John, or to the commissioners for questions.
That's available for any questions of the commissioners or in the public.
We have some speaker slips from the public. I'm wondering, much of this information was not in the report that's in my agenda packet. And I am very concerned that we are being asked to make a financial decision when we have not had time to really study this and be fully informed. What I would like to do is maybe have a brief comment from each of the commissioners about extending the decision on this, and then take public comment on what's been presented. And then we can get back to discussing it a little bit more before we make our decision. Does that sound? I just, okay. Okay, so let's start with George.
Thank you very much, Brad. Good to see you again. A lot of work you guys been doing, so it's quite impressive, and your hair is getting grayer by the minute. So a quick question. I noticed in your portion for the management, there's a paragraph in there called signage. And it talked about, I guess, the Ocean Protection Council, SB1, and for that grant funding, there's a requirement for a certain kind of signage. I didn't see what those requirements are. Is that available somewhere so we could see what kind of sign? Here's my bottom line concern. I want, in my mind, signage ought to be not necessarily only for our local people that come around looking at things, but when there's visitors coming from outside, they could see signs and get educated about what is going on here. You know, maybe charts and maps 4 by 8 feet, you know, showing the harbor, showing the pipeline, how the beach is going to be built, what the size of the beach will be. You know, those kinds of, that's in my mind what signage would be. Is that what OPC is thinking of?
Yeah, so this is something that kind of came at the last minute. We just learned about this on Thursday. We weren't aware of it before then.
Okay.
So I kind of integrated it in at the last minute. So for their grant requirements, they require 2 types of signs. The first one is a construction sign, just like what you were describing. We created a similar sign for the West Trail Living Shoreline project. It had, you know, it showed the project plans. It kind of had information about the phasing of the project and how things would occur on a large scale thing that was, I think, taped up against their equipment staging area in the parking lot. That's the first required sign. The second required sign is an acknowledgement of OPC funding that I believe needs to be in place for 3 years. And they have requirements for how big that is. It's, you know, not a huge sign, but you have to have the certain logos, you have to have the governor's name. You know, that's specifications exactly of what that needs to be, and it has to be approved by OPC staff. The third sign, which isn't required, but something that they encourage, is called an interpretive sign or an interpretive panel. In this case, because of the restroom renovation and park project, the grant funding for that also required a sign. And we coordinated with the project manager of that project to make that sign about Surfers Beach and sea level rise. So I think, you know, that third interpretive sign recommendation is met by the existing sign that's there. But those are,
So do you envision a lot of these signs would have like a scan code that people can then scan it and get further detailed information from some of the reports and stuff like that?
sure, yeah. I believe yeah, we could use one of those. Yeah, QR codes.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely at least put the Harbor District Surfers Beach.
Yeah, so that they can, yeah.
Maybe we could discuss this in greater detail at our next meeting on this. because
Sounds good.
I'm not prepared to vote on this missing information.
Okay.
Bill?
Brad, yeah, thanks for the presentation here, and it made it really clear in my mind, don't it? A lot of moving parts to this puzzle, and maybe I would like to know kind of what the cost might be on all of those. Optimistically, it sounds like we could actually complete this dredging project this year.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Oh, that's the plan.
For sure, yeah, yeah, this summer.
But do we have, are we fairly confident we're gonna get a good pool of bidders for the actual? I'm not familiar with how many potential bidders there might be out there, but if we
Yeah.
get a good pool.
Yeah, so there's a limited number of dredging companies that do these offshore, you know, beach nourishment type of projects. ESA, as part of their design and engineering contract with the district, has a subcontractor who is a construction expert who used to have his own dredging company. And he's been providing feedback and advice on the technical specs and the plans and, you know, logistical stuff from that perspective. But he's also reached out to all of these companies about the project, let them know it's coming. And yeah, there are several of them that, you know, basically, yes, all the qualified and available companies will definitely bid on it. And we've done the best we can to get the word out to those people.
Yeah, if, you know, I've seen a lot of details to the proposal that you have here, and if we don't vote on this today, is that going to delay things?
It's going to delay some of the important things like getting a eelgrass scientific collection permit. I think that's the big one that should probably get underway soon. There's also maybe some plant surveys coming up in March, but for the most part, the work really kicks in April with the biological surveys, and we really want to be ready to go by then. Having a delay in the pre-construction eelgrass survey is going to cause a lot of headaches.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Virginia?
So Brad, thanks so much for this report and the work that you've done over the years. It sounds like the presentation you gave was a summary of what is in our binder, which would have been nice to have for us to see, because some of the information in your presentation is not in our binders, and it's not in the links that were provided in the online agenda, which is the agenda I usually read. So this is actually not even a question for you as much as for the staff. This is probably, I would say, like about the third time or so that we've had to come back to increase or to approve more funding for this. Is there, and I'm probably, maybe it's just me because I like summaries a lot, but you know, like I said, Brett, your presentation was great, but it would have been nice to have the summary to reference the detailed report. Jim, is there a way to get like a financial chart on how much we have actually increased money or funds for the approval? This is like 430,000,
Yeah,
431,000. And then we've done it before, I think at least 2 or 3 other times.
You are
So
correct.
it's gonna be like about 1.3 to 1.5 million in total, but we've had to come back, and I'd just love to see that, and just to see what that, it just seems like all the costs are piecemeal, and I'd rather see like a table of the whole cost to date, and some of the things moving forward, Brad, which you have in your, in this presentation. So that's why I was kind of pulling out my hair a little bit, because it's like, we're coming back all the time. It just seems like it's piecemeal funding. And I get it, because we don't know. I mean, it's not a bad thing necessarily, but I just would rather see like something, how much we've actually spent on this right now, well, I don't even know if it's year to date, because this project has been going on for at least 10 years now.
Yeah, we can provide that.
Okay.
The next meeting, we can provide kind of
Helpful to
a
me.
schedule, understood.
Maybe I'm the only one who needs.
And that's why, that is why, again, you know, we've been concerned with that as well. The general manager has, you know, with with the project kind of continuing to creep.
That, I mean,
The
that's.
vast majority of it, as Brad would attest to, has just simply been the permitting agency.
I understand that.
The new things like
Yeah.
eelgrass mitigation, which, you know, obviously had a whole different aspect to it. But, I also asked that Brad you know, so we're completely transparent, make sure in the presentation that the board does understand we're not done yet. You know,
I mean, that's clear. That's clear, John. We're not done yet. That, and I just,
Soft costs along with the construction, and we do not know yet how much more than the 2.7 to 2.9 that we've got in grants for the project still remaining is gonna be covering the costs that we've yet to incur.
maybe break it down. I don't even know, like the eelgrass mitigation issue didn't come up like when I first got on the board in 2015. It wasn't an issue, right? And then it became an issue, and now it's probably less of an, I mean, it's just, but the cost creep is what I'm concerned about. So and I'm not saying we should halt the I don't, no one wants that. I just want to know what that total cost is, and maybe break it down. I don't know if it's, I don't know how you want to break it down, eelgrass permitting, whatever it is. I mean, this would also go to show, you know, I get to understand the permitting process. It's been a nightmare, right? And so I'd like to show the county what that cost is too, right? Because that is that's part of the clogging of this whole process is the permitting process.
We required monitoring.
Yeah, the whole thing, but can we break it down into those kinds of line
Yeah, we
items?
track every penny, so we can do that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I too, like Commissioner Zumke, was very concerned with what effect delaying this vote will have on the timeline and completion of this project. Could we approve it and request additional information at the following meeting? Because I'd like to remind people, we were ready to go last year, and one email that wasn't opened by a state agency delayed us an entire year. And I just hate to see us come up against some wall or some unknown thing that says, oh my God, we lost 2025 as well because of some little detail. Can we just line up with questions we need and say, keep this thing on the track rolling forward?
I agree with you, Tom. We lost $800,000 because somebody didn't open their email in
At
time.
the state, at
At the state level.
Those are the.
But that's,
opportunity costs right
That's the
there.
State Water Control Resources Board, to be precise.
yeah. Now, what I would like to see and discuss after we hear from the public is I'm concerned that this delay would postpone this project. We've already spent 2.7 to 2.9 million dollars on it. Certainly, we can manipulate or manage our money in a better fashion so we could get started on April 1st. And because we're talking about having this on our March agenda. So, it seems to me that some prudent money management could get this in the works. Meanwhile, I am very annoyed that I didn't get that this presentation today was not available for the board or the public until today. And so that will be my question at the very end. Can we manage our money so we can get started on April 1st? I'm assuming this will be approved in March. I don't see why not. We've been working on this since 2017. But the information that was presented here is not available to either the public nor the board, and that is a serious concern for me.
Generally, let me just break in and just say, generally, Brad does give us the presentation that he's actually going to be going through prior to, and we post it with the attachments and the staff report. He was continuing to work on this summary, and that's pretty much his update summary is what he presented in the PowerPoint that he showed us today. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but everything that you suggested here, except for more updated timeline, everything that you went over in your PowerPoint was provided in the proposal and also the link in the staff report that refers back to all of the information, that we've got online. So what our thoughts were here was just that Brad was giving the opportunity for anybody to want to know all the history, all the way back, because we have a summary on our website of all the history from the very beginning of the project all the way through to today. Was there, in your opinion, there, Brad, something that you're aware of that we need to, and obviously this is the time for the board to tell Brad what we really want to have clarified for the next meeting? Was there something that you said, or you said in your presentation that really was not provided to the public or the board prior to it?
I'd like to see this presentation as presented, as opposed to having go through the public stacks of digital sheets trying to find the information. And
Understood.
I get very annoyed when I'm told something's online and there was a website provided. And I did a little slightly different search and I found a hodgepodge of different documents, no time noted, no date noted in the titles. So I couldn't even figure out where in the chronology they were. And I think it's important. Let's go to the public. I have 3 speaker slips. And I will ask you to be brief. This meeting is supposed to end at 1 o'clock and we've still got a closed session to discuss. So let me start with the first one I received, Jane Prey Silver.
Hi. I'm very much in support of the project and thank you for giving the public a chance to speak. I just have 2 concerns about the project. I had seen on the map that you are going to be moving the outflow of Deer Creek. And for the last 3 years, I've been working on trying to protect the health of the creek for 2 reasons. One of them is I did some research on First Street and they showed if the flow outward of Deer Creek is impeded in any way, significant amounts of the housing would be flooded. About 8 to 10 houses on many of the blocks. I don't know if you know El Granada, but we are in the Corral de Tierra, which means a lot of water's coming down and it's hitting a flat place, and that flat place is where the housing is. Many of the houses are right on the creek, and one of the houses has the creek going underneath it. The gentleman there would put a wetsuit on and pull out all the branches. So my first request is that you make sure that the flow out of the creek. I was very pleased when I read there would be riparian restoration. My second point that I wanted to make is, to my understanding, no one is monitoring how much poisons or herbicides are going into the creek. And I would request that if you're monitoring the water that's coming out of Deer Creek, that be one thing that you're monitoring. we're having a lot of use of herbicides. The way that Deer Creek is structured is the GGNRA is at the very top of Deer Creek. They use poisons and herbicides when they're taking down trees, and they've taken a lot of trees down. Then we have a farm, I have no idea. And then we have the neighborhood. And once the trees come down, that poison oak comes in, and you have to be, a real Spartan to take that out by hand. But I do think that more silting and more poisons will be coming down in the creek, and you cannot have a healthy harbor if you have an unhealthy Deer Creek. Thank you.
And Haggerty?
Yeah, Dan Haggerty, I just wanted to ask Mr. Devance if has there been any discussion or any plan of even in a small area? I know that the sand has really kind of risen on the north side of the Miramar Beach restaurant to plant some appropriate vegetation to help hold some of the sand in certain areas. Essentially, possibly rope off a little section, just trial areas to try to build dunes, as the wind blows and then the sand and kind of collects around the vegetation and the roots hold it together, and it just kind of the concept of constructing dunes.
Thank you, Dan.
Can I get will I get an answer? Okay.
Natalie Down.
Natalie Down. I'm the co-chair for the San Mateo Marine Protected Area Collaborative, and I run the Pillar Point Typal Docent program. Thank you for the presentation, Brad. It looks like the project will bring overall improvements, and I really appreciate hearing about the eelgrass mitigation area, and I think that's really important. As the area is built up, the eelgrass mitigation area is built up, I imagine there could be some impact on the substrate dwelling species like mole crabs, clams, and moon snails and the like. And it's great the surveys are being conducted for many of the protected species. And I'm curious as to whether potential effects on these species have been considered. It's a really important area for local clam harvesters. And so I'd love to hear more about the communication plan for the local fisher folk, in addition to the signage, which I think is also really important, as to how they'll be informed on any impacts on their ability to harvest. I would also love to know if there's a plan to share out the results of the various environmental and species surveys and monitoring to the public and local community scientists, as I'm really curious about those things. Thank you.
You can ask a question and we'll see if it can't be answered.
Appreciate all your time.
We need a speaker slip, and please come to the podium.
Thank you. Thank you guys all for your gift of time here. Brad, the only thing I don't see on your plans is access to the beach. The stairs that go down to the beach have been out of commission for the last 3 years. There's nothing there to no way for anybody to get down to the beach. They have to climb over the rock.
Not here. So let's bring it back. Virginia, you had a comment?
Yeah,
question?
so I don't want this project to be stalled. I think the community wants this to be done this probably yesterday or last year for sure, right? I do too, right? But I do have some questions about the expenses, but here's my question, Jim, and maybe Brad, you can probably answer this. Would it be possible, I don't want the eelgrass thing to hold up the project. Can we just approve what we need to get the eelgrass permitting thing process started? I mean, how much does that cost? If we want to even hold it up, I don't mind. I don't care either way. I mean, I'd like to move forward, but the eelgrass thing, if other commissioners don't feel comfortable moving ahead with the whole thing, can we deal with the eelgrass permitting, get that whole thing done first, and then bring this back? Is that what you were thinking, Jim, too? Or I don't
Yes.
know. Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe the board can consider approving a certain dollar amount to take care of critical aspects to
Yeah.
include the eelgrass mitigation plan and something else, not approve the full request at this time.
You mean the full 430? Yeah.
Approve 1/4 of it, and that'll keep us going until March and won't delay the project.
I mean, I don't know how anyone else feels about it. I mean, I don't mind even improving the whole project. I actually had some questions. I wish I had the actual presentation that you gave, Brad, about Bob Talio's role in all of this. And I mean, I think it's great, but I just had some questions. And the cost of that.
The EOGRAF permit is what he's saying, you pulled this up.
Yeah, I
So
don't
would
want that to be
recommend-
held up.
I would recommend that the board approve a certain portion of the request, like say a quarter of it, and then there are EOGRAFs and other immediate permitting requirements. And then next month, we'll come back, you'll have a copy of his presentation. It will be updated with new information we gain over the month. We'll have your full economic breakdown that you're asking for, and you'll be able to consider everything at once in a more summarized fashion.
I mean, I don't
Do
know
we
how
have
anyone
do
else.
we have any more comment from the board before we have a motion on the vote?
I'll make a motion to it. I like that idea, Jim. A quart, 25% of that is just under 108,000. I mean, would 110,000 work for you?
Brad, the 110,000 will keep us going for the 4 weeks.
Absolutely. Yeah, can I just make one quick comment too? These costs are kind of, they have always been anticipated. We've mentioned them in past presentations. This is we're coming into a new phase of the project where we couldn't have put this in front of you because we didn't have all the requirements to know exactly, which surveys were going to be needed, the timing, we couldn't just, it's just, I want to let you know that this isn't an ongoing additional cost for the planning. This was something that we have been prepared for and we kind of knew about all along. And I thought we explained it. Maybe we didn't do a good enough job.
I understand that, Brad, but we have come back, the staff has come back, at least this is the third or fourth time for additional improvement.
Cost.
Well, to approve more and more. And so, and anyway,
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that it just seems like there's cost creep coming up almost 2 times a year at least.
Well, could we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve $110,000 to move forward with the eelgrass mitigation permits for the Surfers Beach pilot project, which is 25% of about a little more than 25% of the $431,000 being requested.
Would you mind adding that we would be having it on the agenda?
Yeah, and then I was gonna say, and then place this agenda item onto the mark again.
Second? Any-
Second.
Lady George?
But
I know.
is there any other discussion?
Okay, I didn't see any. I asked, let's have a roll call vote.
Peter Carter,
Yes.
Commissioner Domrat,
Yes.
Fish,
Yes.
Humke.
Yes.
Aye.
So we're clear, and Brad knows exactly what the board would like to see from us for next month. We want a summary, just kind of overall summary of the costs. It's easy to see from project onset.
And broken up into, I guess, however y'all want to do it in terms of line items, like it's permitting and I mean, whatever it is, I don't.
Like I said, most of it has, we have already,
It's
like
not
we
in-
are now saying we're gonna see some more costs, but we don't know what those are yet.
Understand.
However, there are, and I think Brad will agree with this, there are, since project onset, like you said, there actually has been new unanticipated costs too. Like for instance, the eelgrass mitigation altogether. When the project started, we didn't anticipate that at all, but those are new costs. We can summarize, and then also just a copy of this presentation updated with the packet. The presentation, the actual PowerPoint and I'm sorry that we just didn't have that prepared in advance.
Should go online. That's
That's my
actually
fault.
a good
Sorry.
present. It was a great presentation, but I would like that to be online too, because
Oh,
that's easier
absolutely.
to read than all of this other stuff in here, right? Which is,
We'll do that.
I did read this, but it would be nice to have that summary so I could reference different points in this presentation instead of searching in this based on that summary.
Are you pretty clear, Brad, on what we're?
Yep, sounds good. And that was my fault for not getting that presentation earlier.
That's all right,
Thank you,
Brad.
Brad. It was a good presentation, so thank you.
Cool, thank you.
And John, we have a specific segment of our website dedicated to the Surfers Beach project that is available from 2013 comments, whenever it was first brought
And we keep
up.
putting more on there, just
Right.
like this meeting and all of these, attachments will be on there as well for the public.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on then. Did we have a roll
Thank
call?
you.
Yes.
We did.
that's-
Thank
We're on
you.
number 4.
Now we're on to D4, overflow parking for Pillar Point Harbor. Yes.
Good afternoon. This is a report for the, concerning overflow parking for Pillar Point Harbor. The overflow parking, at Pillar Point Harbor has been a problem for many decades, with it overflowing onto Highway 1 with trucks and empty boat trailers mainly, when our parking lots exceed capacity or during special events, like the Lighted Boat Festival. This issue was first, or the idea of a parking lot on the Burnham Strip for the Harbor District was brought before the board in December, and discussed about, or presented the idea to the board, seeking their direction if they wanted to move forward or not, or further research this idea. We got a lot of public comment and a lot of board comment during that meeting, and the staff report is an attempt on staff's attempt to answer all the questions or address all the issues raised on that at that meeting. To summarize, the staff is recommending that we use the existing property which the district now owns and combine it with either privately owned property, state-owned through Caltrans and county-owned land, to turn the area into a public parking lot and walking trail area. And to understand the area we're talking about, it's the area of the Burnham Strip opposite I forgot the name of the restaurant again. It's the Indian Beach Restaurant, Spangler's down towards the old office for Coastside Hope, all that area. The idea of the parking lot would be low income impact with respect to I say the word wrong, but water will be able to go through the surface. Landscaping, proper landscaping, and proper lighting. I don't envision any lighting over 4 feet tall in the area to keep the light pollution down as much as possible. Also, envision having benches and trails where people can enjoy the view of the harbor from that area, because it is a nice view of the sunset and area of the harbor. This concept is at the very, very beginning of the concept. It's lines on Google Earth that I put on to give a general idea of the area, but we just to move forward with the project and to further evaluate all the comments and all the questions about this project, we need to move forward to get more of a design concept done for the project and determine with that design concept what permitting would be required. And at a minimum, permitting will be required. It would be a CDP at a bare minimum. We'll do environmental studies, traffic studies. The Harbor District would be the agency who would own this parking lot and maintain this parking lot. And why the staff is bringing it up to you at this point is because there's opportunities for external funding from both private entities and public agencies such as PG&E and Caltrans at this time. And we try to take advantage of those funding opportunities to address the overflow parking needs of the district. And that our parking needs are just growing year to year as more and more people come to the coast side to recreate, fish, or enjoy the trails. And also with the coastal trail being heavily used, more and more people are using the harbor as free parking for the coastal trail and accessing that coastal trail, especially with the extension that we put in at Perch Beach. So this staff report is simply requesting permission to issue a request for proposal for design, engineering, and permitting. It is not asking for any revenues or funding at this time, as it will be just staff time and putting out the request and evaluating the proposals. Once the proposals come back in, staff will come back again to the board and request funding, if we get that far, for a firm to start the actual design and engineering of that lot. And again, I'm not hating the fact that the district is trying to take advantage, or I'm recommending we take advantage of the external funding that may be possible to fund this project instead of using district funds to fund it. Public meetings and public workshops will be held both in the CDD development and plan and development of the project once we identify a firm to run that process. Barring any questions, that's my report on the parking lot.
Thank you. We have letters from, I will summarize the letters that we have received on this. They are available on the web. The access points to the west side of the parking. And he writes that, the furthest lot on the east side of Highway 1. And he's also concerned that the overnight parking not be in front of, the commercial enterprises at the, on the lower elevation of the district. Have two letters from Kevin Lansing. And he wants the public to be very aware of the long, costly process of going through all the permits that will be required for this. I would note that you just got a taste of it with the eel grants. And it is a concern, and every government agency does have to put up with those anymore. He also writes that, again, it's about the permit process. He does speak about the Coastal Commission decision from last November, in which the Caltrans is supposed to submit a plan for review and written approval by the Coastal Commission to support at least 75 free parking spaces. And this is subject to Coastal Commission jurisdiction. Don't we know? And Janet Breyer writes that she concurs with Kevin Lansing and is curious about the costs, the design and the engineering and the permitting that will all be determined in the future, of course. And she is concerned about how the Harbor District will protect pedestrians crossing on Highway 1 if we include a pedestrian crossing across Highway 1 as part of our proposal. And I also have quite a few public comments. I'll start with Lenny Schultz.
Lenny Schultz, resident of El Granada, and thank you for the opportunity to comment on this item about placing a parking lot on the Burnham Strip for your overflow parking. So I just want to tell you that you may not know that El Granada is historic, it's eligible for the state historic map, and it is on the San Mateo County list of historic resources. So we're not just dealing with a bunch of dirt with weeds on it. It's part of the integral plan of Daniel Burnham. So, and it's always been very, very, it's called the cherished, I've seen it, I've read the cherished Burnham Strip. So the community is, really does love the Burnham Strip. And that's just a little bit of history. It's, I'll keep this really short. I won't make all these comments. I concur with everything that Kevin Lansing said in his letter. He's very knowledgeable, ex-planning commissioner and so forth. So these are serious, should be seriously considered, these issues. And I want to just urge you to not make a decision today, but to put it off, to put out, start the RFP process after a meeting with the public is held, because I think that the public will be, it's really necessary to get their support on this, so they need to, I don't think not even half, hardly anyone, I might be mistaken, hardly anyone in our community knows about this grand plan, but, so please, I suggest that the harbor commissioners, hold off for now on the RFP process until a public meeting can be held. And I don't know if you have it in your master plan that that the public should be public participation throughout the planning process. It must be emphasized that any development, this is in your first master plan, I don't know. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so I just, anyway, your master plan said that any development will require public participation throughout the planning process. And so I really, really urge you to do that. I have a lot of other comments, but I don't want to take more of your time here. Oh, okay. I didn't really want to write letters.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I really appreciate Commissioner Slater Carter's comments at the very beginning of this meeting about how it's important that this entire process is transparent, and that public engagement is really important. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I would like to highlight the importance of community input on the proposed overflow strip parking, the north end of Burnham Strip, before any time or money is spent on a design concept for this project. Given the potential impact on El Granada neighborhood, particularly on traffic and in potential environmental concerns, it's essential that residents have the opportunity to share their perspectives. I'm concerned that public comment isn't currently allowed in these meetings. And I understand there are technical issues, as we discovered earlier, that we seem to have gotten under control with one of the previous agenda items, which is great. I respectfully ask the Commission to consider pausing the process and any further planning for this overflow parking project until there is an opportunity for broader community involvement and input. Thank you very much.
Well, I guess I'm like everybody else. It's kind of early in the game here, so I'll wait, but I'm happy to hear Jim talk about Harbor District would be in charge cleaning up and maintaining the parking lot. That's a good thing. That was most of my concern, because I usually walk this trail all the time, and after a good weekend, people leave the food trays, you name it. I mean, here's an article from the park system. It says how human behavior can affect sustainability of parks. Talks about leave no trace when you leave your campsite and that, but human behavior nowadays is not so great. I can't tell you how many times I've picked up cans and bottles and boxes, especially after a holiday weekend. especially where they park on the other side of the highway, on the east side of the highway. All along the highway, people just put that out, the doggy poop bags, everything. And they leave them along the walkways. I'm just saying, I love this area. You guys love it, I can tell. But human behavior is kind of a downfall for a lot of these projects. This starts off saying, you know, you don't always know what you got until it's gone. I guess you guys remember that from Joni Mitchell, you know, putting up a parking lot.
John,
It-
John, thank you.
Along with that, you get all the garbage and people, you know, unfortunately, I've grown up in Bay Area all my life. I've seen parks. People go to the park to change their oil now. They do a lot of things. They use parking lots to sell their cars. They put them in there. Who's gonna maintain
We'll
that?
have to put in a set of rules at the parking lot saying.
Yeah, enforce them.
Not for anything but parking, take your trash, no.
Right.
parking.
And lastly, I did want to bring up just that big expenses over on Surfers Beach, but there's no access to the beach. If any of you tried to get down to the beach, you couldn't do it between the breakwater and Magellan. You'd have to drop down about 4 feet or climb over rocks. The stairs have been out of maintenance for at least 3 years. I don't know what agency takes care of the stairs, but I make it known that I've seen people
I think it's,
risk their life.
I think it's Half Moon Bay in California.
I don't know who it is, Coastal Commission, whoever it is, but
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Laurel Frischman. I live right here in El Granada. And first of all, I want to say thank you to the Harbor Patrol and the guys that work over here. I work with, I volunteer with Pacific Beach Coalition, and we do our monthly cleanups, and I can't thank you enough for all the help that they give us. They're wonderful. And good to see you again, Catherine. I have some questions, and I'm wondering if I can get an answer or if this is just comment. Okay, and they're probably quick questions. I think I heard 75 parking spaces.
That's what the Coastal Commission.
Okay, and my concern is, well, my question is, what other locations have been considered for this parking, this overflow parking in this process? I'm thinking, because I'm living here for the last 20 years, this is our side of the highway. And then that is the public side of the highway in my mind. And so it's a kind, you know, to have the public kind of come in and infringe on our spot is a little disconcerting and it makes me a little angry. They already use this to bypass the traffic out there anyway when the visitors do that when they come. So I'm wondering, have other spots been considered, like the extension of the parking lot over there by the new RV park? And can we own it? Can we extend that out? Can we use some of that land? That's just an idea. So what else has been considered? And I understand that the Caltrans is making changes so that they cannot, I don't know all the background on this. But anyway, those are the kinds of my concerns, is that you know, the public could be encroaching on our side, and Pacific Beach Coalition people may end up cleaning up after them on this parking. Thank you very much.
Ken Haggerty?
Good afternoon. Commission, thank you for allowing me to comment here. Dan Haggerty, El Granada, 35 years here, and I spent 13 years on the Midcoast Community Council. I want to say I agree with the written comments from Kevin Lansing and Lenny Roberts and Natalie Dow. This concept is just not a small item. I believe the California law guarantees the right for community members to participate in this decision before moving forward. You're essentially the proposal is essentially expanding into our community. There's particular zoning issues. There's the view corridor. The vast majority of people that will be impacted simply are still unaware of this proposal due to a lack of appropriate outreach. There needs to be appropriate outreach to the community, and there should be a robust in-person meeting with Zoom access for questions and comments at an appropriate venue that could handle the amount without speakers falling off the wall and standing and all these interruptions and disruption. It should be a well-done meeting, so that everybody can clearly understand what's going on, what's being proposed, opportunity to ask questions.
But 10 seconds.
So, there's the PG&E connection. I don't know how many parking spaces exactly proposed, a square foot of pavement expected, traffic flow plan, type of
And I'll give you 10
crossing,
seconds.
hours, expectations of lighting. There's gonna be 1,000 bollards or a few tall, what color? There's impacts, environmental, traffic, protected view corridor. And what about coordination with GCSD to find some other alternative before we take a step and spend tax dollar money? Thank you.
I'm Kim Evans. I'm a 30-year El Granada resident. I'd hate to see the Burnham Strip get paved over. I'm not even sure it's necessary. I would like to encourage this group and the community to have a chance to get a lot more information. So, and not make any decisions until there's a well-advertised encouragement of a public meeting. So a lot of these people are more articulate than I am. But I do agree with their opinions. So thank you.
Melinda McNaughton.
I'm a resident of El Granada for 25 years. And I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. But I do think that most people in El Granada don't know about this idea. I know it's a new idea, but we definitely should get the information out to most of the residents on the coast and most of the residents, especially in El Granada, because this does encroach on El Granada, the El Granada town. So I do encourage not voting on a proposal or even going that way first. And I think the first thing to do is to get a meeting or 2 meetings just to propose the idea to the residents and the public. I think that should be the first thing. So people are aware and then they can be like, yes or no. And then you hear the majority of, I'm sure some people are all for development and encouraging more business and people to come out to the coast. And I'm sure there's also the opposite, right? So we need to look at all perspectives. And I think those are the most important things. And the meetings should have Zoom available as well as in person. My biggest concerns are pollution, traffic congestion. Living here, we always have to deal with the traffic on the weekends and with the tourists. It gets very crowded. I'm concerned about more pollution. And if a parking lot is there, coming into our town, we already get a lot of pollution from the highway as it is. I'm concerned about the impact on the habitat, the wildlife that's already out there, the riparian creek. There's a lot of things to consider. I'm concerned also about more light pollution if the parking lot has that. Any other structures that might be going up there. I think this all needs to be discussed with the public first before there's any money or time spent on a proposal. Thank you so much.
Back to the board. Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it somehow, please.
I'm Jane Craze Silver. I've lived here since 1989, and we are seeing more traffic through the neighborhood. You can't often get your postal parcels on the weekends now. But I have a more important topic that I want to talk about, and that is emergency preparation. There's a saying on the coast side that everybody says, and that is if there's a fire or an evacuation, go into the harbor. That is going to be the towns of El Granada, Moss Beach, Miramar, and anyone else on the coast in Montera. Thank you. And we all know the choke point is Obispo and Highway 1. That is the choke point. And my own feeling, when I think about, we've got seniors like myself, our kids can't afford to live here. We're going to have to get out ourselves. And I look at my street, there's multi-generational people living in those houses, a lot of cars. People are going to go, we might lose our house. We need to bring the RV. We need to bring the boat. So there's going to be a lot of traffic. There's going to be horse trailers. There's going to be some RVs that aren't operational that have been parking nearby. And in my own case, I have a wagon and 4 dogs. And I know once that Obispo and Highway 1 becomes gridlocked, I'm literally walking out of town with those dogs. Forget the photographs and the documents. It's the dogs and the wagon and me. So I think the seriousness of this, you know, we can put spreadsheets together on what things cost. But what no coastal town has done thus far is figure out how many lives it's going to cost without adequate planning. And I think this should be the town that says we're going to take a holistic viewpoint so that we don't face gridlock, because the one thing that saves lives is adequate planning. And I would like to see this plan expanded into one that includes CAL FIRE, that includes CERT, that says, if there's an emergency, we're not going to lose lives. We have an adequate traffic plan. And I think that anytime we create more blockage and more coverage, we're expounding a problem and we're risking lives. Thank you.
I just have a few comments. Thank you.
And for the record, you are, because
I am Janet Greer, Granada resident.
but let
Yeah.
it,
Yes, that's because I didn't know. I did, I gave Noah a slip.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Keep-
anyway, all right. Okay, great.
Comment first.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm really glad we all got to have the opportunity today to address this. It's been moving somewhat fast. November, we get the Coastal Commission decision about the Caltrans. And then I know Mr. Pruitt's been working on, you know, how can we solve this with Caltrans? So it first came up in December. Those are the holidays. And now it's coming up today. I agree with everybody that the community certainly everybody I talk to is not aware of it, except for some of the people that showed up here today. And we need more information. Mr. Pruitt mentioned a staff report. I didn't see anything attached to the agenda. I don't know if that was a verbal report or if there's a written report. If so, I would appreciate it if it was put on the website. There was also a reference to, you know, how are we going to fund this external funding? What is the external funding? Is it the commercial on the west side of the highway? Is that what's driving this? Who's funding this? Those are my concerns. I also mentioned in my letter this is a Caltrans created problem. And where are they and why aren't they contributing funds? In fact, the Coastal Commission said, Caltrans, you have X amount of time to come up with something. And so we're stepping in. So I think we should shift more to that and make sure the community is aware, because it's important. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? In case there was some confusion on my part. Okay, let's close the public hearing. And Tom.
I too am a 35-year El Granada resident. And the people who talk about traffic, I believe that's a red herring. You've got Waze, you've got Google Maps, you've got other wayfinding methods with vehicles. And the traffic that gets diverted off Highway 1 along these roads now is ridiculous. And I see it every single weekend, and I see it every morning, every time during rush hour. So to say that the traffic is going to increase there, I don't find that a tenable position. So I would like to motion that authorize the general manager to issue a request for proposal for design, engineering, and permitting of a project to construct a parking lot and green space on the Burnham Strip to include parcels owned by the Harbor District, privately owned parcels, areas owned by Caltrans, San Mateo County. We've already,
Do we
heard
have
from the
a-
general
wait, we
manager.
made a motion, do we have a second, so we can,
I'll second to continue the discussion.
thank you.
We've already heard that there will be plenty of public meetings and many other things, but you've got to start someplace. And the harbor owns the property, and we're trying to do what's best for the harbor district as a whole.
Thank you. Okay.
A second, I guess I'd just like to thank the public for showing up and giving us your feedback. And the one thing I heard is, the need for more public feedback. But the Harbor District has limited staff. I mean, to get public feedback, we've got to hire people to do that process. And I think this is one vehicle to do that. And I think Jim has heard the message loud and clear that one piece of this is getting that public input before they decide what to do.
George?
I concur with Bill. I think we need to have something that people can comment on. And the staff doesn't have the time to do it. So this is really to develop some proposals that then can be brought to the community and get their feedback on.
Besides this type of.
We brought this, a staff report and brief board, in December. Prior to that, emails were issued to, Granada Community Services District, City of Half Moon Bay, the county, outlining, this idea and letting them know that that staff was working on this, that it was still in the concept phase and that we still didn't have board concurrence, but I wanted to make sure that they were aware that it was something that the staff was working on. Then we brought the issue to the board in December to get permission or authorization to continue to research this idea as a solution. And then we received a lot of comment back on that, which I outlined in the staff report. And that we came to today for that next step of developing a more comprehensive idea that we can then take to the public and get public comment on. Right now, it's just lines on a chart, which doesn't answer all the questions at all. I need more precise outline of the project and what the project would entail if it went forward, what permitting will be required if it goes forward, in addition to a CDP and traffic studies. So that's what my next step is. It's
But just what I'm saying, the next step doesn't mean that we would move forward on this is just to get information.
yes.
Yeah, so I would be for getting the information.
We could be talking about other options.
Please don't interrupt. In fact, the headline for the overflow parking agenda item does say to include parcels owned by Harbor District, privately owned parcels, and areas owned by Caltrans and San Mateo County. Those are all the major landlord. Those are other options. Dan, you were with me on the planning, the county planning commission hearing to get rid of all of the parking. I spent months writing letters along with Len Erickson and trying to convince the county and the Caltrans to maintain the parking here. You know how many people joined us? How many letters of support I got? About zero. And so I and with Dan's letters and a few other folks managed to get 75, hopefully more, parking spaces to be maintained. I've been here 45 years. I couldn't get my kids 45 years ago down to that beach. We have since put in a trail that you can access very easily, a paved trail that you can push strollers and wheelchairs and get people very close to that beach. And if they have the right tires, you can get them wherever you want on that beach. To go slower on this will mean to increase the cost. You can look at the history of the cost of the dredging project. You're going to see that fairly quickly. Time costs money. And if we're going to be doing this, we need to be moving with appropriate diligence, not trying to slow it down. Harbor District parking needs are different from recreational parking needs. Harbor District parking needs are different from residential parking needs. They're also different from commercial parking needs. Not that any of those are any less important, but we have other needs included in our needs for parking, and we need to be taking care of those. To those who are suggesting public input before we spend any money, public input requires money. Zoom meetings require money. Hey, Dan, do we need to call 911 for you? Thank you. And the county is the one in charge of emergency access. I've lived on this coast side for 45 years. I lived in Half Moon Bay before I lived in Montero. It is, the safety of this community is huge, and it has been neglected by, Dan, take your comments outside, please. And it is the county's responsibility to take care of it. Montero Water and Sanitary District has been trying for the last 20 years to acquire the Caltrans right-of-way that goes through Montero. It has become an overgrown, tremendous fire hazard from the eucalyptus and the underbrush. Caltrans still hasn't done anything. MWSD got a resolution from the Board of Supervisors some years ago saying they should give it to us. You know what Caltrans did with it? They lost it somewhere. So these are all good ideas. We're going to move forward with them, but we do need money because the long-term costs are only going to increase. And we have, since COVID, we have so many more people using the park, using the trail. And it's our responsibility, not only to the small community of El Granada, to the larger community of the coastside, but we represent the entire county and people who want to use it. So I'll be happy to talk to you after the meeting, but I close the public hearing. Thank you. So let's have a roll call vote on this. Yes.
Commissioner Domrat?
Yes.
Commissioner Dush?
Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Yes.
Aye.
Motion passes. No no's. Let's move on to the state of the district report.
Yeah.
Good afternoon once again. At the request of a few, both members of the public and from board members for a state of the Harbor District, I developed a document that is in the agenda that is 8 pages long that outlines where the district is and what we've accomplished in the last year and where we're going to be going with some of the projects that we have. We're in the middle of an MSR right now with LAFCO. It's out for public review, and compared to the previous LAFCO reports for the district, it is extremely positive, and they do give credit for the hard work that the district has done and the achievements that we were able to achieve. The first issue that's facing the district and the coast side is maritime search and rescue and maritime assists. The coast side does not have any immediate emergency search and rescue assets on the water from Pager Point down to Pigeon Point. And the Harbor District has been filling that gap for several decades with a very limited staff. This way of staffing a search and rescue department has put both the individual staff members at risk, our assets at risk, and those who we attempt to save or do save at risk too are the vessels that we bring in. In the last year, we've saved over 108 people, or we saved 108 people, and we assisted over 300 boats back to safety in the harbor. But again, it's we're doing it with a significant lack of staffing, and current funding only allows that minimal staffing to operate and maintain our facilities, and only provides a limited opportunity to fully provide search and rescue staff on a 24-hour basis or at least a 12-hour basis each day. There's multiple hours each week. The harbor's not staffed to a level that would permit a launch of search and rescue assets in this region, and leaves the coast exposed. Properly train staff and equip our staff here at the Harbor District to provide that offshore and nearshore rescue capabilities on a more consistent basis. The district has been searching for and looking for 1.5 million in annual funding for salaries, benefits, and training, equipment, vessels, and maintenance. We've investigated several different sources of funding to include the hotel tax at the RV park, which is located on Harbor District property. In the hotel tax passed in Half Moon Bay, both under Measure U and Measure R, was to help assist in public safety. And we're asking for that part of the TOT to fund public safety through search and rescue. We've also requested from the San Mateo County Sheriff's Office a percentage of their funding under Section 35 of Article 8 of the California Constitution, which was created by Proposition 172, which created a 0.5% sales tax to fund public safety following Proposition 13. The county itself in 2023 received over $110 million in Prop 172 funding, which it distributed throughout the county. The district does not receive any of that funding at this time, and the district has not received a response to our request from the Sheriff's Office. We're going to we'll continue to look for that emergency search and rescue, and we will continue to provide emergency search and rescue response and maritime assistance when properly staffed, equipped, and trained. However, until the such time the district is properly funded, there will be large blocks of time where no immediate search and rescue capabilities will be available, placing the coast side at risk. That's one of our biggest challenges, which is outlined in the state of the Harbor District. Following, I also discussed federal partnerships. We've done some remarkable outreach and partnerships and for our projects. Surfers Beach Replenishment Pilot Project's one of those. And we're able to do this project because of the support of a $2.9 million grant from the Ocean Protection Council, and we received a brief on that today. The Pillar Point Harbor Launch Ramp Rehabilitation Project, where we already received a $400,000 grant for design and engineering from the state, which will remodel or replace the existing restroom facility with something similar to that which we built at Surfers Beach, improve the trail through that area. We're also going to reroute the boat wash water through a swale for natural filtration before that water goes back into the harbor. We're going to replace the deck and the launch ramp itself, the floating docks, and replace and improve the boat washing stations. The Princeton by the Sea Shoreline Project, which is a major accomplishment. We just signed today the agreements with the Army Corps of Engineers to get the project into the planning phase, where actual designs will be discussed and public involvement will be encouraged. The project is to address the excessive erosion that was caused to the shoreline of Princeton by the Sea by the construction of the breakwater, which was a federal navigation project. The Army Corps has agreed to take on this project, and the Harbor District has agreed to be the non-federal sponsor. Project costs cannot exceed $15 million, which was a $5 million increase since January 1st in available funding, and the Army Corps will cover 91.4% of that cost. The rest of the cost will be the responsibility of the Harbor District. North Half Moon Bay Coastal Erosion Sea Level Rise Project is also a significant accomplishment this year with the work that the Harbor District did with Congressman Anna Eshoo to include the North Half Moon Bay Coastal Erosion and Sea Level Rise Project in the Water Resource Development Act of 2024. This act was signed into law by President Biden in January, and it authorizes the Army Corps to conduct a general investigation on how to mitigate and prevent the damage to the coastline from Pillar Point Harbor south to Pillar Steeples Creek, the damage caused by the breakwater and the excessive erosion. Again, the project will address mitigate and prevent the damage. But the current project at Surfers Beach will be instrumental on a proof of concept on how to rebuild beaches and what will be necessary to keep the sand on those beaches. That project will be well above the $15 cap for continuing authorities by the Army Corps and Engineer, and will need separate funding authorization from Congress once designed. The capital improvement plan, we've made significant progress on our 5-year capital improvement plan. The Oyster Point entrance ramps, which are now submerged at plus tides, our king tides, are all permitted and ready for replacement. Materials are being ordered and we'll be mobilizing this spring to replace all those ramps and also bring them up to the new elevation of the new park at Oyster Point Marina and make the ramps fully ADA accessible. Surfers Beach Restroom and Green Space project was completed. It is a well received project with thousands of people using it already from the coastal trail and other uses of the restroom, the bike path, the bike logs, the outdoor showers. A few times I've seen down there where there's been lines lined up for use of the outdoor shower. So it's heavily used. It also has EV charging stations. We created additional parking spots and converted some of the existing parking spots into ADA parking spots to provide access for people to be able to get close to the water and even have water splash on their cars in heavy seas. The district, again, worked with organizations, and we did get awarded a $510,000 grant for use in this construction project, which was greatly appreciated and needed. Johnson Pier Fish Fire Building electrical upgrade. Currently, the fish fires, when they're offloading squid, require to bring in portable generator or diesel generators and put them at the end of the pier, causing adding to the air pollution and also taking up valuable space. The Harbor District is in the middle of the project right now to upgrade the electrical system out there, so those generators will no longer be required. This project is scheduled to be completed this spring. The floating dock life extension project, the staff really came forward with this project and proposed it, and it was a fantastic project. Basically, rebuild the floating docks from inside. All the docks are being opened up, all the dry rot is being replaced, all the rusted fittings are being replaced, and new deck boards are being put on board, and the flotation devices, the plastic tubs, are all being cleaned and pumped out of their water, bringing the docks up to their normal height and more stable condition, making them safer for the purpose they are intended. This project's ongoing both at Pillar Point and at Oyster Point. The Oyster Point electrical upgrade project, all the electrical upgrade power transformers on docks 1 through 6 were replaced with new, fully compliant, larger capacity transformers and ground fault controllers. This provides cleaner and more dependable power to each of those docks. The entrance structure or marker for the channel coming into Oyster Point was dilapidated and falling into the bay. We completely rebuilt that channel marker, ensuring the safe passage of all the vessels entering and exiting the marina, including the Weta ferries. Keep them out of the mud. The repavement project of Pillar Point Harbor Avenue, as a result of heavy use in salt water from intrusion from all the vessels and vehicles departing the launch ramp, the road was deteriorated significantly with large potholes, uneven road surfaces. To address that, and improve the safety, the district repaved Pillar Point Harbor and added marked crosswalks to improve pedestrian safety. Perch Beach Coastal Trail Extension, we finally connected the coastal trail from Perch Beach all the way over to Pillar Point Avenue, or Boulevard, eliminating the need to walk through unauthorized trails and muddy patches and flooded areas during storms. It's now fully ADA compliant and is heavily used. We also slurry and striped several parking lots at the harbor, increasing the number of usable parking spots and ensuring that we had the minimum number of parking spots for trucks and trailers of 119 spots, which we do, and this project was completed this year. The native plant project, it's been ongoing and still ongoing. We're moving all non-native plants with the help of a local company and some local experts and replacing them with native drought-resistant plants throughout the harbor. The restroom at Tenant Row has been completed. It is now fully ADA compliant, and the old restroom that was not ADA compliant has been removed. Property purchases over the last year, the district, with the intent to increase the number of revenue streams and improve the customer service, purchased several pieces of property next to the Pillar Point Harbor in January of 2024. These include 4 parcels located above the Pillar Point public launch ramp and also 2 parcels on the Burnham Strip. The 2 parcels on Durham Strip are being considered for public parking to serve the Harbor District as overflow lot, given the fact that Caltrans is eliminating parking on Highway 1 with the High 1 Intermodal Improvement Project. The district is also considering additional property purchase at Princeton by the Sea or other areas around Pillar Point Harbor with the goal of providing additional services to the harbor and increasing the number of revenue streams. Real property leases have been reviewed and brought up to date upon renewal and issuance, with lease payments being brought up to the current market values. This effort has increased the district's rental income by well over $200,000 a year. The district ensured that all leasable space is occupied to include the restaurant spaces at Pillar Point. The space was non-operable for over a year, and now with no rental income being received, the restaurants are now open and running and paying market rate for the spaces. The budget and finance areas of the district are very, very strong. As we heard today, we passed another clean audit with no comment or recommendations. This has been going on for well over 5 years, and our budget team has done very well. And our financial plan and our cash management has improved, as discussed earlier today. Our budget has earned the award from the Government Finance Officers Association for 5 years in a row right now, and we look again to earn it again this year. And then also, the transparency of the district is also being maintained through and documented by the Special District Leadership Foundation Transparency Certificate of Excellence. That the certificate provides third-party recognition from statewide nonprofit foundation known for providing good governance and best practices, highlighting the Harbor District's effort to openly engage the public, create awareness of our activities, and the district commit to operating a transparent and ethical manner. And then finally, the public outreach and engagement hosted an annual lighted boat festival. Even with inclement weather, well over 1,000 individuals attended the event, which was the first time it included a holiday drone show. Our district also participated in the Coast Guard Chamber Commerce Holiday Night of Light Parade in Half Moon Bay, promoting ocean safety. I'm presenting this state of the Coast Guard, or Coast Guard, I apologize, state of the Harbor District to the board for their review and any comments in which they would like added or taking before we publish this as a final product.
Jim.
Great. Next comment.
However, your comment.
I thought everything was excellent, and I just wanted the public to know the progress that we've made in the Harbor District with the current board and the current management structure and the staff that we've got here that's just absolutely spectacular. Things have never worked better for the Harbor District, and I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Thanks, Jim. So have they had the State of the Coast event yet?
It was scheduled for Tuesday this week, but it's been indefinitely postponed.
So if it gets scheduled.
This will be part of it.
Okay, excellent.
I'm also speaking at the March Granada Community Services District, which I'll be presenting this at that meeting.
I concur with Tom about the progress that has been made, certainly over the time I've been on this board. But I also want to thank the public and the residents and the visitors who come to the harbor. I mean, the only reason that we can have a harbor that's vibrant is because of visitors and people who live here. And, you know, just thanks for your support and the comments and the input that you give, even though it may not always be, you know, in agreement with the Harbor District. And just know that I mean, at least for me, I take it very seriously. And I just am thankful and grateful that you care enough to even make these comments. So thank you.
Jim, thanks for the report. I thought it was very good and comprehensive and helps remind me of all the things that we have got done. It's been a great year.
You needn't forget.
Yes.
Yeah, concur with all the comments. A fabulous year, and we're looking forward to a more fabulous year.
We are a team here that includes importantly the public, and staff. From the general manager down to the newest hire. We need to work to respect and honor each other for the part we contribute to make a continual and lasting need for the.
Chair,
Yo.
I'd like to extend the meeting for half an hour because I think we're coming up to that termination time in our agenda.
Let's take a roll, let's take a vote. Everybody say aye.
I would do it for 2.
Yeah, better do an hour.
Okay, we'll do it. Everybody who agrees, say aye.
Aye.
Do it to 2 o'clock.
I heard all of us, so. Whoever said no was too quiet. Anyway, I think this is good. I'd like to see this have its own special headline on our website. I think it's too easy for people to forget how much this board has accomplished. And it's been amazing, and it's all staff's fault and George.
And maybe.
I mean, I'll echo what Catherine said. We've done a lot of work since Jim was hired in 2019, and the staff's been fantastic. I mean, Julie's been here and John's been here for a long time, right? So it's a major teamwork effort here, and I think we've just come a long way, at least over the 10 years I've been on this board.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next agenda item, which is professional services agreement with Coastside Buzz LLC.
I think we need to do we need
G7.
Need your budget.
Oh, I thought we did
G7.
that. You were going
We're
to,
going to.
sorry.
Going to, sorry, yeah, and then the
Thank you.
sound.
Michelle's okay, just get it.
Oh, right.
The sound came on.
Thank you so much for having me back up here. The staff report includes, of course, a comprehensive narrative for the mid-year budget review. It also includes a detailed schedule of where we are landing at the end of December 2024. But I also have a short presentation to lead us through just a handful of slides. Really, my hope with transitioning our written staff report to a presentation is I want the public to also be able to track what we're saying about our budget. All of our commissioners are well versed in our finance and the language that we use, but as last year we transitioned to ClearGov for our budget book, hoping that these slides will also help the public understand where we're at financially. So I'll get us started. Why? Why do we do this? Well, the Harbors and Navigation Code says that we need to have a process for developing our budget, and reviewing our budget mid-year helps that. And it's also a great time in the budget year to make sure that we are on track, and that if we need to make any adjustments, now is a good time to do that. But just so that you all know, we are looking at our budget and our expenditures and our income every single month, if not more frequently than that. But this is just the formal time of year that we come to you with that information. This little table, it's a little bit fuzzy, but you can still see it, and it is part of the staff report. And when I look at this table, one of the pieces that I always make sure that I look at is this line over here that talks about total revenues less expenditures. And so it's a really good thing when we look at this number, this 3 million, that we can see that we have more income than we have in expenditures at this point in time. So again, when the public is looking at these tools, what's a good thing to look at on this table? And we have the percentages on the far right of where we're at. 50% is when these numbers were pulled. And so for the most part, we're all within the range of where we had hoped to be. And so I'm going to go through those line items, and they each have a slide. So our operating revenue, we're right at 50% of budget, on track. And those are things like our berth and slip fees, leases, commercial activity permits, launch ramp fees. So right on track with operating revenue. Non-operating revenue, we're actually at 58%. We're on track with that. We saw that we did pretty well with our interest income in our last fiscal year, and we have continued to see an increase in our interest income. Looking forward to that presentation with our finance committee, and then also an increase in property tax. So we're 58% of what we had projected for income for non-operating revenue. Salaries and benefits. I would say that this particular line will need the most attention in our mid-year review. We're at 52% of budget, a little bit higher than we'd like, and really the biggest impact that we saw on our salaries and benefits are health insurance rates. When we compare that at the same time year over year, we had a significant increase in our negotiations with OE3 last spring. We enhanced our health insurance plans, and that came with some rate increases as well, as far as trying to project those costs. But even though OE3 is our largest labor group, our Teamsters rates and our management rates have gone up significantly for health insurance. And so we do anticipate requesting a transfer of appropriations from elections to salaries and benefits, but we will address that at our next meeting for an action item. Operating expenditures, we're at 36% of budget, and that's on track. That's when the low number is good. I don't think it'll be that low when we wrap up the fiscal year. You know, we have some big projects coming up, and we're hoping, you know, that we'll continue to have some of those repairs and maintenance costs come up. So even though that number is low, we do anticipate that we will be on track. Capital projects. So we have quite a bit of money left to be spent in this fiscal year on our capital projects, those one-time revenues and expenditures. And you'll see kind of the same story when we talk about capital projects or working capital, is that this is typically just a timing issue. We're ramping up. We all know we're hoping for the eelgrass in April and to get our large Surfers Beach project moving forward. And so we do anticipate that a lot of those funds will be spent. We have worked on 6 different capital projects in the 24-25 fiscal year. On our working capital balance, when we ended 24-25 and started this fiscal year, we anticipated a certain amount of money, about 12 million for our working capital balance, and it was actually increased. Once we had the audit back, we were at 18 million. And there's just a few items, and again, it was the timing of capital project expenditures. We had an increase of property tax revenue, and then lower operating expenditures. So those are all positive factors for adjusting our working capital balance as we began this fiscal year. So all very good news. That's all I have for our mid-year, and then I'll come back to you next month to request that appropriations transfer. So thank you very much. Yes, especially when it comes to money.
Yeah. Okay, we have one more agenda item before closed session.
Got a motion.
Oh, I thought
No, I
you said
thought we-
information only.
For this time, but you're gonna bring it back next month for the 730.
For information only, even my presentation did include the motion, so we'll have to put that to next. So you've had the presentation, you have all the background information. We'll see you on this again in March.
Yep. And we have item G8. Recommend or professional services agreement with Coastside Buzz LLC.
There's Jim.
Jim is here.
The news.
I think it's fantastic news. It's great. You've been fantastic with managing. We're on to the Coastside Bus, and I believe Michelle is online.
I am here.
Fantastic.
And we can hear you.
Last year, we contracted with Coastside Buzz for some social media outreach, and the Coastside Buzz has done a fantastic job in getting our message out to the public on several different websites, including Google, Facebook, Instagram, and then the weekly Buzz email, our email to the bank list. It's also I don't know the proper terminology, but promoted on Facebook and gets to other areas, and then we also could link to it and send it out on our social media. So it's a kind of a team effort, which Coastside Buzz is an integral part. Coastside Buzz has done a great job on getting information to the public on all the issues that we've done and highlighting the successes that we've done, and also creates a great history if you want to go back and look at the different articles. One of them is the WETA documents, and our efforts are outlined there. They're fantastic. Same thing with the Princeton Shoreline Project, the Surfers Beach Pilot Project, the Surfers Beach Restroom concept have all been highlighted on her webpage through Coastside Buzz. But I wanted to give an opportunity for Michelle to talk. What she is asking for is an increase in the contract cost to $1,500 a month. Currently, it is $1,000 a month. So it would be additional $6,000 a year. And she's, again, the recommended motion is authorize the general manager to sign the enclosed professional services agreement between the San Mateo County Harbor District and Coastside Buzz LLC, increasing the monthly compensation to $1,500 per month. With that, Michelle, I will turn it over to you to discuss Coastside Buzz.
Thanks, Jim. That was a great intro. Can everybody hear me?
Loud.
Loud and clear.
Okay, great.
Really loud.
So I'm a new media model. And I came out out of the gates, if you will, because public agencies weren't covered as ubiquitously and as incrementally as I do. So if you go to my website, Coastside Buzz, and you see the menu bar, you'll see Buzz, and you'll see public agencies. Every public agency on the coast has their own feed, including you. So when people say they don't know what's going on, all they need to do is subscribe to Coastside Buzz, and it's free because I'm getting paid on the inside, so that I work. Every single one of you I've had a conversation with, I've met, and I ask for input, I ask for direction, work with Jim all of the time. I often will email him the title that I'm working with for accuracy, so I don't mislead anybody. And communications is expensive. Half Moon Bay, they pay about $500,000 in communications because they have two people that work at it. One's the city clerk and one is their communications person specifically. They're attached to pensions and benefits. I am not. Again, it's a new media model. And one of the advantages that I also have is that I watch every single public agency meeting pertaining to the coast side. So I will often watch something like One Shoreline, and Jim may or may not watch that, and I can inform him of what went on with that meeting. Conversely, I also watch the Coastal Commission meetings. That's about 24 hours per month. It's a lot of meeting, but the things that happen there are happening in the state up and down, and they're all a reflection of what's happening for us here on the coast side. And the Harbor District is really novel and innovative in terms of having Jim and George being ex-Coast Guard related and Army Corps related people. That is information and knowledge and intellectual property that very few other agencies have. So I like to pump that up. The other thing that I also do is, as crab and salmon are not as reliable as income sources, you are an enterprise district. The other thing that I know, I worked with Tom a little bit on getting Santa paddling. Now it got canceled because of the weather and stuff like that, but that's part of what I do, is promote your events. And I went to your 6-hour priority setting session to make sure that I'm informed of what you guys are doing. It wasn't recorded, but it was definitely an informative thing for me, and networked with everybody at the different tables as well. I think that's, oh, okay, in terms of reach, got some numbers. So on my homepage, I get between 5,000 and 10,000 people on the coast side coming to my website every week. I got another 4,200 people on Facebook, and I reach them with all of the calendars and all of the posts that I do. And that's just Facebook. On Instagram, I've got 7,500 people that follow me. And this is actually an area that I need to bump up. When I was looking at your survey results, the area that you're not reaching is the Instagram population. They are all between, say, 40, 45, down to about 25. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have an increase in the contract, because my original contract was like, watch the videos, put up 4 posts. And I've always done probably 200% of what that is, because I see holes and I'm trying to fill them for you so that people can't say, well, we're not informed. Buzz is your communication channel, and I get out there on every platform, and that's kind of the rule. And I don't know how many of you guys follow social media, but it's a whole thing in and of itself, and it takes a lot of curation. And Coastside Buzz, I'm in my 11th year, so I do have a good following. My weekly Buzz mail comes out on Wednesday with music, and then on Thursday it comes out with the news. And the reason why I mention these other things is because if I was just covering the Harbor District by itself, my audience would be relatively small. But because I'm broad and I cover the city, I cover the MCC, I cover Montero Water, and I'm very interactive with both the staff and also the electeds as well. my door is open. In fact, it might be worth it for you guys to have a lunch with me and talk about things that you would like to be illuminated more, and I can do that illumination. Does anybody have any questions? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
If you, would you like us to have it as an agenda item in our discussion about what we'd like to see more?
Sure.
That way we could discuss it as a board. If we do it as some kind of lunch, it's, you can only meet with two of us at a time, and it might be considered a serial meeting.
Ah, okay. That's fine. Don't want to violate the Brown Act. Absolutely. Agendize it and let's talk about it. I know there's something that's come up multiple times in the last few meetings, and it's about Zoom and the outreach for Zoom. Because I watch every single public agency meeting, you guys are the only public agency that don't have interactive Zoom. So it's just something to think about. I know, Bill, you wanted to agendize it last year and it never did get agendized, but it might be worthy of a conversation because I think it'll reduce some of the resistance that, you know, you have with the public. So that would be, I have a Zoom account. I think it's $150 a year. It's not very expensive.
I
That's
was
your
going to
thought.
ask, Michelle, at the end of this meeting, I was going to ask to have that as an agenda item.
Sweet. Love it. Thank you, Catherine.
And we didn't discuss it.
No,
Neither
no.
Tried
No.
together.
Yeah.
Michelle, are you what they call an influencer?
I am. So, I mean, in terms of like metrics for Instagram, I think I had 3.3 million last year just for one post. And it was along the lines that, you know, Jim wanted to warn people to not get too close to the big waves. Well, there's a picture, if you're not on Instagram, I know some people have seen it that aren't in Instagram because that's where you get 3.3 million. But there were two bicyclists that were down by Miramar and they refused to stay at home and they got washed out on their bikes. Now, nobody was injured, but it certainly got everybody's attention. And then I do some crab posts. There's something called pinning. You pin your best posts to the top. So I went down and I took a picture of a crab boat, taking the crab out of the big pot, putting it into a bucket, 85,000 views. So that's how you bring people to the harbor. And that's that generation that's on social media. So I fill that gap for you guys. I'm old too. I mean, I'm 63, so I didn't know what Instagram was or Facebook or WordPress was when I started 11 years ago, but I think it's very powerful.
I'll make a motion. I'll move to authorize the general manager to sign the professional services agreement between San Mateo County Harbor District and Codeside Buzz LLC, increasing the monthly compensation to $1,500 per month.
I'll second that.
Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Peter Carter? Commissioner Damrat?
Yes.
Commissioner Mathush? Commissioner Mathush?
Thank you. I finally heard you that time. Aye.
Commissioner Zemke?
Aye.
Commissioner Chang Carlli?
Aye.
Thank you very much, you guys.
All right, thanks a lot.
Actually, before I go, one of the things that I want to promise you on top of just what I have been talking about is I want to do more jumpy house outreach. Just physically sitting at a table with a commissioner or somebody from staff. I did this for GCSD when they were doing their park planning way back in 2018. It was hugely successful. So I think that might be something that would be very good to do on the weekends, both in terms of people that live here and people that are visiting. Thank you.
All right, let's continue. Let's take a break in this meeting and the closed session. We have public comment on closed session. I haven't received any, has anyone received any letters or emails or anything else? Okay. On a moment. Yep. Calling the remainder of the meeting of February 19th, 2025 to order. There are no reportable items from closed session. Does anybody have any requests for future agenda?
I think we had that one item on,
No.
Zoom.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to have a meeting discussing whether we, that we should discuss reinstituting our Zoom meeting and under what conditions they can continue or if the public. will-
I'll bring a staff report next month.
Thank you. And the other is to have a discussion on what we'd like to see Coastside Buzz doing to improve their services for us. And
I have another possible request. So we have that time limitation that ends, the meeting ends at 1-ish, right?
Right.
And that was put in for various reasons. I mean, do we still need to have that?
1 o'clock?
Yeah, can we just
do
get,
10 to 2.
well, or just,
Or we
I'm
don't
saying,
even-
I'm saying.
We
I
don't
would-
even have to have an end.
I don't want to have an end time, like
That's
where we
fine.
have to, but I think we have to vote on that, right? Yeah, it's a policy, so, I mean, can we put that on the agenda where we're not constantly having to say, oh, we have to add more time?
We haven't had to do that.
I know,
for years.
but I mean, but so I want to put that.
That was
on.
great.
Okay, change, so I guess it would be a policy change about the end time of the meetings.
We'll research the issue and
Okay.
come back to the board.
Yeah. Okay, then I'll move to adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
All in favor, say all in favor, aye.
Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
No.
It's funny because at other meetings, the president just goes, we're out of here.
But
I remember, I know the
We're more formal.
circumstances that this.
On a roll call,
Sure.
Do I sign it?
President Slater Carter?
I think she's gonna vote for it.
Okay. Commissioner Zemke?
Yes.
Commissioner Domrat?
Yes.
Commissioner Crowley? Commissioner Mathush?
Yes.
Yes.
You.
Meeting's adjourned at 1:40.